Hello, friends, and welcome back to a bonus episode of the Jank Tank, episode number 14, bonus episode number 14. My name is Timothy Zaccanino. I'm back from the grave. I didn't actually die, despite whatever Daneelius and Teld told you on their last episode, which I enjoyed quite a bit, actually. I'm joking there. The Sky Fisher episode and some of the kind of like back and forth about which ones deserve to be A versus which ones deserve to be C and stuff like that. I got a kick out of that. Really enjoyed it, and really enjoyed the really smooth intros and outros to the last couple episodes.
I'm very good at it.
I thought they went over very well. But good to have you both. We've been chatting a little bit about Spider-Man. I've got Teld on the line, as always, resident Peasant podcaster here. And then Daneelius here as a guest as well. Daneelius, I believe, is going to be our Spider-Man enthusiast, kind of like lore dump master here, just like really into the... right?
Oh, yeah,
you're the Spider-Man buff among the group, right?
Oh, man, I've read... just all of the comics. No, I know nothing. I know nothing. Don't ask me for lore things ever about it.
I meant to ask this off air. We should probably just stop making these quote unquote bonus episodes. These are just mainline episodes at this point. I think after this one, I'm just going to start calling the Peasant Review like a mainline episode. It's not really a bonus episode anymore. It's often longer than the mainline anyway.
I would say at this point, Daneelius is like our Peasant co-host. This is a mainline episode, and if we do Peasant content, of other episodes, it can be bonuses because those are outside our normal purview.
Well, it's weird to consider a bonus episode since it's the superior episode. So it's maybe the other episode is the bonus.
Yes,
this is
of
the
course.
Main line. Yeah.
Peasant, much better. I don't know which one I look forward to both. I look forward to doing both. I'm not going to put a stamp on which one I like better. That's not fair to Daneelius or Chris as far as recording goes. But
Tim likes all of his kids equally.
Yeah, of course. Part of the reason I labeled these as bonus episodes from the very beginning is it giving me an excuse to ignore the housekeeping stuff at the beginning, which I'm going to do this time, though. I do want to remind people that you can find the Jank Diver Gaming Discord wherever you're listening to this podcast. If you're on YouTube, it's down in the description, and you can find Daneelius's Cube, the Daneelius's Peasant All-Star Cube, on CubeCobra, which is also linked during these episodes as well. And yesterday, just pat on our back, pat on your back, pat on whoever's back needs to be patted, the Jank Diver Gaming community fired, I believe, 2 8-person pods, Peasant pods, on the same day at the same time. I think we ran our cube alongside Daneelius's cube. I don't know if they actually did like the finalists play against each other or anything like that, but it was really interesting and confusing a little bit when the deck list started coming in. I was like, when did we put this card in the cube? And it was like, no, that's Daneelius's thing. And then I was like, I was going to congratulate someone. I was going to be like, oh, really cool to see this green deck. We haven't had a green deck do blah, blah, blah in a while. I was like, no, that's Daneelius's cube. That's Daneelius's cube. But it was really cool.
Well, important to note that You Social Engineering had itself quite a day.
Yes.
And I think that one has some staying power.
Mm-hmm. It was, I didn't see any of the gameplay, but it got a trophy. That was our pod.
That was in your cube.
Yeah.
But in my cube, it was also very good. It was in a 2-1 deck that was very strong.
Yeah, Flutter, honestly, at this point, if I need a deck to 3-0 just to make it like look impressive, I'm just going to ask Flutter to draft it and see if he can 3-0 with it, because he has a knack for 3-0 with basically whatever you put in his hand. But he had a really sweet ramp deck. And then I think your trophy was from Fletcher with a food deck. Yeah, green-black food
Black-green
deck.
food, yep.
Yeah, which,
very strong.
Funnily, I kept getting confused because the only 2 cards in that deck that weren't in our cube were Greta and Trail of Crumbs, and I was like, this looks like a deck from our cube, because we added all the food. Anyway, I'm rambling at this point. Let's go ahead and talk about Spider-Man. We're going to talk about Spider-Man today. Hold on. I had to redo that take because my enthusiasm like slowly slipped out of my body, but the happy's back. The happy left, the happy's back. We're going to talk about Spider-Man cards for Peasant Cube. Quick apology to Daneelius. I know, Daneelius, you really wanted the arena versions of these cards, which should we tell is there a listener here who doesn't know about the whole arena riffraff yet? We probably should just mention it. They didn't secure the rights to use the Spider-Man cards or any Marvel IP stuff on Arena or Magic Online, so they had to recreate the entire set from scratch with new art and new names, and apparently even new card types for things like Infinity Stone, which I guess is copyrighted or whatever. Anything like that, anything with a Marvel copyright on it, they had to rework for Arena. So I know the entire set, the Through the Omen Paths version of Spider-Man is dropping in its entirety tomorrow. We're recording on the Sunday, and I know, Daneelius, you really wanted to kind of use those, to kind of dance around all the Spider-Man stuff that we're not like super pleased about, but also because those are the cards we're going to be looking at a lot. So apology, I kind of wanted to rush this out to kind of actually start getting the editing done. So a slight apology. I know you would rather have preferred it that way. That said, I do have a question for the listeners. With that in mind, would there be a paper version of Spider-Man and then the Through the Omen Paths Arena version of Spider-Man? If we talk about these cards in the future, and you're a regular listener, would you like us to talk using the paper version, or would you like us to talk using the arena version? I'm just kind of curious where people are at from the listener's perspective there, because
it could be useful at some point to ask, like, in general, do people listening tend to play on arena or on paper? I think there's probably a split.
That's true too. Yeah. I mean, if you're listening to this right now, let us know. Are you a paper forward cuber, or are you an arena forward cuber, or Magic in general? Just let us know. Maybe put out a poll at some point just to kind of get a feel for our listener base there. I assume most people play majority through digital at this point, but I don't actually know that for sure. So that's what we're going to talk about real quick. Since I am rambling at this point, like absolutely rambling, does somebody want to just like touch on the bonus sheet here? Because originally I thought all the bonus sheet cards were going to be mythics, and we didn't have access to them, but we actually might have access to a few of them. Yeah,
what the devs have said is that basically it's up to them, and on cards that they think are appropriate to be on arena beneath rare, then even when you have a card like Ponder, for instance, is an example. Ponder and Terminate, I think, are the two examples from this bonus sheet that we're getting new to arena. And in those cases, I would be shocked if they're not downshifted. And I think they've actually already said that Ponder will be downshifted. I imagine Terminate will be as well. And they did that for Path to Exile in the last set. And I think they'll be doing that going forward. There are some cards that they aren't doing that for yet. Like I believe Ephemerate, for instance, is still only on the client at rare.
Yeah, Sign in Blood.
Yeah, but my guess is going forward when a card's reprinted, if it makes sense to, they'll downshift it.
So you're saying we should not expect Reanimate to be an uncommon in
I would doubt that. I would doubt it, but maybe it's possible.
If they want to throw a curveball, like they did downshift like Captain Lannery Storm, which whatever, it plays like an uncommon. It's not even that good of a card, but I was not expecting them to do rarity downshifts for these bonus sheets. I would love if they just left Shock as a mythic, though. Like they did not downshift Shock. It's just you can spend a mythic wild card on Shock, but
I mean, briefly, I would say, yeah. I mean, Ponder and Terminate, I think, are both eminently cubable cards in our environment. So I could see adding both potentially, but almost certainly Ponder. I don't know about Terminate, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think Terminate is a bit outclassed, but Ponder is still best in class.
It's funny. I'm surprised they put Terminate on and not the Madness Terminate, whatever that's called, which I think is already on Arena, maybe. But what is it called? Terminal Agony, I think, is the card. It would have fit perfectly. But.
Yeah.
Well, other than maybe like not wanting to introduce one instance of Madness with timing restrictions being out versus Mayhem, like maybe that just leads to some complication. But I do agree with you; it would have made more sense from a thematic standpoint.
Yeah, I don't know. They have an opposition agent on this bonus sheet, so like, I don't know if the complication's that big of a deal. But I get exactly what you're saying. Daneelius, do you want to chat real quick about the grade and scale before we actually kick things off here?
Yeah, so we're using the kind of traditional limited resources grading scale of A through F. For most of the cards that we are talking about, they're going to probably end up in like the B or the C range. But it goes from A, which I consider to be very best cards in the cube, cards that are worth splashing for, or cards that you'll abandon one of your colors for if you see it back to pick one. Bs are cards that you're usually going to be first picking. The way that I think about it is this a card that I'm willing to take, or willing to take as the first card of its color. Cs are going to be your pawns. And the way that I think about a C- to a C+ is mostly just about playability. So a C- isn't going to get played as often as a C+, which is going to get played most of the time. Then you have Ds, which are generally not going to get played very often. I do think sometimes there's still a reason to have like a D+ in your environment if it's supporting an archetype that you are really trying to support. And then down to like Ds, D-, F. These are cards that shouldn't get played. An F probably should never get considered, and we won't be talking about many Fs or any Fs today.
Oh, the only Fs we're going to talk about is when someone thinks a C is a card, and I'm just like, no, it's an F. Like, don't put it in your cube. We're not going to go over all three of our grades for every single card, but I have been attaching these documents, our show notes, to the YouTube videos or to the podcast episodes. So if you want to go check the description and follow along, you can, and you can see where Teld added cards because they're just egregiously like out of line with everything else. Though I'm going to try to clean that up as we go. I have been trying to clean up the show note documents a little bit more, knowing that other people might be using them to follow along. So I'll try to keep those a little more organized in the future. I honestly, I try to keep them organized as they are, but then some other co-hosts come in and they're just like, let me just throw this card wherever in the middle of the black section.
I can't believe somebody would do that, Tim. That's really, not courteous to you.
Truly unbelievable, truly. Okay, so yeah, that kind of covers all the housekeeping stuff that I said we weren't going to housekeep with, but important stuff to go over for these peasant reviews. And that does put us into the cards, where thankfully we don't have to talk about a Spider-Man right away. But we are going to talk about a Spider-Fan instead, which I assume that's the joke with this character. No, in case you didn't get the, dripping sarcasm at the beginning, none of us know anything about Spider-Man outside of, a couple of the Marvel movies or whatever. So cards like Flash Thompson Spider-Fan, I kind of get the joke. You can explain the joke to me if you want. You can explain who the character is, but this isn't Final Fantasy where, me and Teld have played a bunch of the Final Fantasy games. We just, really don't know. So I'm sorry if a lot of this stuff goes over my head. Most of it's self-explanatory, and the joke is there on the card, but some of this stuff is going to miss, and I'm sorry to the actual diehard Spider-Man fans out there. I'm trying to bring some positivity to this set that we kind of clearly don't like very much, but the cards are cool. Cards are cool. So we are going to kick this off with Flash Thompson Spider-Fan, 1 and a white for a 2/2 uncommon legendary human citizen. It has Flash. Flash Thompson has Flash, and when it enters, you choose one or both, tap a creature or untap target creature. And honestly, first read, I missed one or both, like everybody always does on these cards, and I was like, tap a creature, it's kind of whatever, 2/2 tap a creature. But being able to untap a creature at the same time is kind of cool. Adds a little bit of extra functionality to this sort of card, which usually just taps something down for a turn. Doesn't make it super impressive. What I thought was interesting here is that this is a good enabler if you have specific things you want to enable. Like if you're doing the web slinging thing in this set, this is a really good way to enable that, because it can come in, tap an opponent's creature down, untap whatever, and it can just tap itself, which you can then use web slinging to bounce this back to your hand and have it available to kind of do the thing again. So it kind of enables all of your web slinging stuff on its own. And we will talk about some web slinging stuff, but I think unless you're doing tap, untap shenanigans, or you have a specific purpose for this, like I'm trying to abuse my botanist, my, whatever it's called, the Tarkier dog botanist guy.
Traveling botanist, yep.
Yeah, that one. Then I don't really particularly see this taking the spot of a different white 2-drop.
Yeah, I think it has a lot of words on it, and that's interesting. It's doing something relatively new. I couldn't really find reasonable comps for this, like Merfolk Trickster kind of, Floodpits Drowner kind of, but not really for either of those. It's kind of doing something new. It's got a lot of words on it. It has Flash on it. I really do like Flash as a mechanic. I was really trying to think about what decks would I run this in. So I was looking at some white lists in my environment recently, and I do think that there's a lot of blue-white lists that might be happy about this kind of as a secondary Floodpits Drowner. But I don't think every blue-white deck would want it, and I had a hard time really coming up with decks that are going to be excited about this card, and the white 2-drop section is just really competitive. So for me, it's like a DD+. I don't think it's crazy to run. It wouldn't shock me to see it in somebody else's cube, but I just think it's not really the kind of card that's easy to build around. I think the ideal scenario is you're in some kind of a race, your opponent attacks you with the 2/2, you play this, untap your 2/3, you block that, and you tap down their other creature, and so it's going to be easier for you to now get in. If that's like the ideal scenario, and I just don't see that coming up very often. So even if you have some synergies in your cube, like Traveling Botanist, I think this probably misses the mark, but there's enough words on it. It's doing something new, so it wouldn't shock me to see it in someone's cube.
I mean, it's kind of whatever at the end of the day. It's cool that you get both abilities, but at the end of the day, it's what are you doing with this? Cool card. Hopefully the arena version is not Flash Thompson doing whatever he's doing in this art. It's something different, but
no one cares about your Spider-Man obsession, Flash. So you just got to read the lore, and then you understand it.
Oh, the lore does explain it. That's
reading
just the Magic community, right?
and that was a quote from a famous Spider-Man character, Liz Allen, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, where's her card? When are we reviewing it?
I don't think we got a Liz Allen card, unfortunately.
That's for Spider-Man 2. Don't worry. That's for Spider-Man 2.
All right, so here's the big guy, the one and only Spider-Man web slinger.
Because he has web slinging.
Yeah, see, they did the thing. This is a common Spider-Man. It's 2 and a white for a 3/3 legendary creature, Spider-Human hero. It just has web slinging for white. So Web Slinging says you can cast it for this alternative casting cost if you return a tapped creature you control to its owner's hand as an additional cost. So if you just play this out, it's a 3-mana 3/3, which is terrible with no abilities. If you manage to use this, and we talked about this pretty extensively in the mainline review, but it's way more relevant in Peasant Cube because you're hopefully picking up something that does something when it enters the battlefield. Like I guess we have to say it already from the very beginning. Like you want to use this as a Skyfisher. You want to use this as a 1-mana 3/3 that picks up something useful that you can replay, or save something from like an aura and unable to scream or something like that. So if you're not doing that, if that's not what your plan is, this card is horrendous. But it is a good example of how Web Slinging works.
Yeah, you know what's really cool though is when your web slinging cards actually do something. That's always cool.
Yeah, 1-mana 3/3. I don't even know how impressive 1-mana 3/3 is. I guess it's pretty good, but you can't do it on turn 1, so whatever.
Yeah, so the reason I want to bring this up really briefly is I do think this is kind of the most web slingy of all the web slingy cards in that it only costs 1 to do the web slinging. The others I think all cost 3 or more, I want to say. And so yeah, this is basically the only one, in my opinion, of the web slinging cards that you should even think of as like a Skyfisher sort of card, because the whole point, we talked about this in the Skyfisher episode, the whole point of a Skyfisher is that you're getting good stats for the mana you invest. And when you invest 1 mana for this 3/3, that's good stats. That's at least something. The others, it's a different calculus. The other thing I was going to say is we talked about this in the Skyfisher episode. Usually with Skyfishers, you either want to be returning, non-creature permanents non-land permanents to your hand, or even just any permanent to your hand, or you want to be able to return a creature to your hand at flash speed. We don't play any Skyfishers anymore that can only return creatures and can't be cast at flash speed. At least I don't. So I don't see the package here being enough, but I just do want to call out that like the cheaper web slinging, that you could at least consider using that with your Nurturing Pixie, especially this web slinging in general I think really wants flying on your Skyfisher, so you can at least imagine a deck where this card specifically is going with those cards. For the web slinging cards coming up, I don't really think you care to pair those with your Skyfishers because the web slinging costs are so high, but we'll get to that when we get to it.
Yeah, I also want to take up something with creature sizing later in this episode. Just remind me when we get to green. I have a bone to pick.
Okay. I also want to point out it's very easy to like think that web slinging will always work, but it won't. Kind of go back to Edge of Eternities with Void, where it's like I have these Void cards and I have these other things that enable Void. Void will be on when I need Void to be on, and there's so many situations where you don't have Void online when you need it as your bonus, and web slinging hits me the same way, where it's very easy to like craft a deck thinking that web slinging will always work, and there are those situations where you can't get a creature tapped to enable it. So anybody have a good British accent for this next one?
No. Oi, mate, you got a license for them web launchers?
Yeah, you know what? Actually,
whoa.
that's probably a bad idea because I'm not going to ask for an Indian accent when we get to Spider-Man India. I'm just not going to do that. So maybe we shouldn't for the UK either. Also, the artist for this card went on a huge rant the other day about having his art called AI and like pulled out all the different stuff that was like, here's all the models I went through and stuff. He was very upset that people thought this was AI art or whatever.
People have gotten a little too jumpy about calling art everything. They don't like AI.
Oh, yeah. Scapegoat. Spider-Man UK. Apparently there's just a Spider-Man for like every country in the world, I guess, is the thing. Y'all let me know. Spider fans, let me know what's going on here. So Spider UK, 3 and a white for a 3/4 legendary Spider Human Hero. It's an uncommon. Web slinging for 2 and a white. And at the beginning of your end step, if 2 or more creatures entered the battlefield under your control this turn, you draw a card and gain 2 life. Talk to me about this one. This one strikes me as like, especially compared to the last card, like extremely playable.
Yeah, this card's cool. I actually do like the design here. I think it is playable both as the web slinger and just the 4-mana value engine card. In Peasant, there's a lot of token generators. There's going to be... I think the trick with this card is that it reads like 4-drop web slinging 3-drop, but I think most of the time you're going to want it to be, unless you have a Harry Dronesmith or something that makes its own token, you're probably going to want to have this be like a 5 or a 6 drop with web slinging that pushes it down to like a 4 or a 5 drop. I think you want to try to get the trigger the turn you play this, but I think, we don't really see value engines like this, static ones in Peasant still super often, like just, every turn being able to generate value, and those tend to be pretty good when we do get them.
Yeah, I totally agree about that. That's, I think, a really critical point is persistent value engines are not common in Peasant. There's not really a comp for this card. Rumor Gatherer was the the comp that I came up with, but that's 1 double white for a 2/1. And it says whenever another creature ETBs, you scry 1, and then on the second trigger, you get to draw a card. So that's a terrible body that doesn't count itself. And that's a huge difference with Spider UK. It does count itself. And so I actually disagree with you. I think that the way that I want to play this is with 1-drops. And the ideal scenario is whatever your 1-drop is, if it's a mana dork or if it's a nurturing pixie or another flyer or whatever, you get that tapped. And then on turn 4, you cast this with web slinging, you pick up your 1-drop, you play your 1-drop back immediately, and you get the card draw. And I think at that point, you've effectively spent 4 mana for this 3/4, but you drew a card, you gain 2 life, and now you have this persistent ability in play. And I think that is pretty exciting.
Wait, so you are agreeing with me, right? Because that's pretty much what I said, was you want to pair this.
Well, I just don't think, waiting till like turn 5 or turn 6 until you have that much mana, I think specifically you're looking to pair this with ones.
I see what you're saying. You're specifically wanting to web sling your 1 to replay your 1.
Exactly. So this enables itself by picking up the 1-drop, and then you replay the 1-drop. You can obviously do that on turn 5, turn 6 as well. I'm just saying, I think if you're trying to maximize this card, you want it with a lot of 1s, and you want it with token generation, like you guys said. So yeah, I think this card is interesting. It's doing something new. I definitely want to test it. It's possible that, relatively expensive, kind of asks something of you, just card advantage creature isn't a world beater, but I think there's something here for sure. And one thing I wanted to call out is the fact that, like the previous 2 cards we talked about, this is a legendary creature. A lot of the cards that we're talking about today are legendary creatures. I brought this up in the last review that we did, that we're getting, with Universes Beyond, we're going to be getting so many of these legendary creatures. I think you really want to be on the lookout for potential, legendary matters, synergies that you can use, like Frodo from Lord of the Rings, or new ones that we get. But that's something to note, is that tons of legendaries, the set.
Yeah. Also, I want to point out that drawing a card tends to be fine, right? It tends to be something that's okay. Persistent card draw is even better. But the life gain here is really what's kind of pushing me to think that this card's going to be good, because one of the best things you can pair with card advantage is incidental life gain, because it gives you the buffer to be able to actually play the cards. And on top of that, the cards you're drawing are presumably contributing to triggering this every single turn. Since you get them in the end step, you use them on your next turn, you generate some more cards, you generate some more life, and it's just kind of can get you out of a hole. And specifically, one of the ways we've mentioned before that the white decks lose in our Peasant environment is getting chipped out of the game, and this does help with keeping you from getting chipped out of the game.
Yeah, I totally agree. Life gain's huge on this.
Yeah, they didn't need to add the life gain here, I don't think, but it is nice that they did. Okay, now this next card, though. Web Up.
Banger alert.
Yes. I'm so excited for this. Web Up is 2 and a white for a common enchantment. When it enters, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until this enchantment leaves the battlefield.
How is this still in the pack?
I mean, have they ever made some, this is just ingenuity right here. Have they ever done anything like this before? Just to read the quote, because spoiler, this is going to come up a couple times this episode. This is just a really cool, innovative, exciting design. I'm not sure we've seen anything like it before, and it really makes the Spider-Man set pop. This is just wow, what awesome. Remember that this started off as a 100-card set, and it had to be bigger because there wasn't room for everything they wanted to do. I
was looking for comps for this card, and I couldn't find any. It was crazy. So
no.
It's doing something brand new.
It also really tells a lore story, because it turns out you don't just have to wrap up criminals. You can also wrap up objects. You can wrap up weird spatial anomalies. Whew. You can wrap
this
up
is a bang.
demigods.
This is a banger here.
Yeah, real flexible card.
So yeah, I mean, we don't even need to grade that one. That's just that's peak card design.
I would
right
probably
there.
give it an A if I needed to.
It might be an A plus.
Only an A. Yeah, come on, man. Do I need to explain the joke to the listener? I'll explain the joke at the end of the thing if you haven't caught on yet. This looks like is this a Daneelius edition here to close out white?
Maybe. I don't actually remember.
I can't remember if me or Daneelius put this.
I think this was you. But
if you guys like this card, tell me about it, because this was not on my original list to talk about.
This is Costume Closet. It's 1 and a white for an artifact. It says this artifact enters with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. You can tap it to move a +1/+1 counter from this artifact onto target creature you control, but only do that as a sorcery. And whenever a modified creature you control leaves the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on this artifact. And recall that a modified creature is any creature you control that has an equipment on it, an aura on it, or a counter on it. So this is Explorer's Cache in white with very small upside. Explorer's Cache is a card from LCI, I believe.
Yeah.
And that card, it only got to add counters to itself when another creature with a counter on it died. This gets to put a counter on it when any creature you control that's modified leaves the battlefield. So there is some upside, for sure. Explorer's Cache, for me, I ended up trying it out for a bit, and I cut it just because it's a narrow card. Basically, the only decks that ever cared about it needed to be a deck that was like explicitly a +1/+1 counters deck. It wasn't getting played as like, you know, an artifact for a green artifact. It's just not good enough to do those things. It's a counters card. If you're looking to specifically support counters in white, then I think this is a perfectly reasonable card, but it's pretty narrow. So I give it like a D+. You know, if it's in a cube, I'll be like, oh, white's doing a +1/+1 counters thing, and I think it's reasonable at doing that thing.
Yeah, I think this is a little better for a couple of reasons than in the green version of this effect. Firstly is I think this effect's just more powerful in white. White cares more about what this card is offering than green does, because like green's thing is it's already just got massive creatures. White sometimes has some sizing problems where you want to like, this can help fix it. White's also just pairs better with, you know, the kind of aggressive spaces that a card like this would conceivably be good in. It's easier to pair into the blue space if you're trying to do the like Zoetic Glyph sort of thing, because this also carries those counters on it when you animate it, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does.
And then additionally, like, modified creature ends up being easier to trigger than just the +1 counter thing, right? You know, this works with all your equipment, like your living weapons and stuff. I still wouldn't say it's necessarily good, but I think it is substantially more playable by context than the other one with, was Explorer's Cache is what you said, I think.
Mm-hmm. Why is Bonnie Tyler and Kevin Bacon on my screen right now?
Because we're holding out for a Heartfire hero.
Everyone gets that reference. Literally, every single listener gets that reference.
I'm so stupid. How could I miss that? I'm sure you were going to explain that before I asked, but I was like,
no,
I'm
just going to leave it there and see if anybody noticed.
Sure, yes, Heartfire hero, of course. I mean, sure. I think we played the green one too for a little while, and it was like this is fine, but if you're not explicitly supporting +1 counter stuff, it just seems just fine. Blue. We're moving into blue here, and Teld, do you want to take this first one? This is like right up your alley.
Sure. So this is Spider Bite, a Web Warden. It is 2 and a blue for a legendary creature spider avatar hero. When Spider Bite enters, return up to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. This is just a Core Skyfisher in a spider suit. Like, this is literally a Core Skyfisher. It bounces a non-land permanent, and you can target your opponents, but you know what you can also do? You can target your own.
Yeah, see, but I think it is a bit of a problem with the card, because as we went over in the Skyfisher episode, kind of part of the whole point of a Skyfisher is that it's got a good body, and this one doesn't. So I agree with you. You can pick up your own stuff, and that does give it nice utility. But I do think that for it to kind of justify its cost and size, you're more often wanting to be targeting your opponent's stuff.
Sure.
And so I don't know. I like the card for sure. It's, you know, Unnerving Grasp, and Unnerving Grasp has been solid in our environment. It's an Unnerving Grasp on a creature, which I think is probably better, even though Grasp does have some upside with, like, you know, putting something in your yard and maybe getting a better creature under the manifest to flip up. But I think it's pretty similar. That card for me is like a C+-ish. Maybe this as a permanent itself gets up to be B-. We'll see. But yeah, it's a solid card, and I think no reason to run Manowar anymore if you were before. This is just definitely better.
Yeah, I'm kind of, I don't really have a huge interest in this card, but I see it, like, I get it. I think for our purposes in our environment, I like Unnerving Grasp better, but I do agree, if you're doing if you're wanting to blink, reanimate, you know, have any sort of synergy with creatures, which is very easy to do, this is probably better in those spots.
Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, this is the exact text box on Jill, right? From Final Fantasy, minus the transform, of course, right? This is
the Peasant Jill, yeah.
Yeah, I was very confused about the avatar type in here, but I'm picking up from the flavor text and the art that this is some sort of digital Spider-Man or something like that. I guess.
Yeah. It's. I think that's where the bite. It's the digital web. I think.
Yeah. Okay. Bite. That makes sense. It all adds up. I got it. Could have used a keyword, I guess, to make me excited about it. It reminds me so much of Quistis Tripe from Final Fantasy, where I was like, okay, I get what the card is doing, but like, it needed some sort of extra juice to really get me excited about it. This is a fine card, though. This is a perfectly fine card and a flexible
I think it's a good
one.
card. I think it's a good card.
Yeah. I mean, I have it as C+. It could be in the B range on flexibility.
I'm kind of docking this one for being boring, but yeah, this is playable.
Yep. Daneelius, why don't you take the next one, because you kind of like flip-flopped after, you know, this card was spoiled from not very good to possibly decent.
Yes, this is Secret Identity. It's a blue instant for 1 blue mana, and it says choose one. You can either conceal, which is until end of turn, target creature you control, important, becomes a citizen with base power and toughness 1/1 and gains hexproof. Or you can reveal until end of turn, target creature you control becomes a hero with base power and toughness 3/4 and gains flying and vigilance until end of turn. First of all, there's a callback in the art of this card to unmask. And we'll get into this maybe at the end of the set. I actually really dislike this callback, but I know a lot of other people are stoked about it. And the art is very cool, and it's cool that they had RK Post come back and draw like a new version of this art. So that is very cool. In terms of the card itself, I was very off it at the start because, as we've talked about many times, for my protection effects, I really want something more than just protection. Not just modality, but like extra oomph on top of the protection to make me want to use those cards because they're narrow. This card has, however, kind of a crazy amount of modality the more that I thought about it. I think there's essentially 3 modes to this card. One is you're countering an opponent's removal spell, obviously. The second is you're killing one of your opponent's small blocking or blocked creatures. So, if they attack with a 2/2, they block with a 2/2 or 3/3, then you can turn your creature into a 3/4 and you win combat for 1 mana. And it's not great, definitely not great, but it's a mode. And the last mode, which honestly might be the one I'm most excited about, is kind of the Lava Axe mode, where just pre-combat, you target your creature with counters on it, you turn it into a 3/4 flying vigilance, and you hit them. And depending on the creature you target, you might be hitting them for a bunch. So the kinds of cards I was thinking about this, maybe one Heartfire Hero, maybe one of the green 1-drops.
You're speaking my language.
All right. Maybe one of the green 1-drops with Evolve, like Evolving Adaptive, or the new Chocobo. And if those have like 3 counters on them, then you're just doming your opponent for 6, maybe on a board state where your creature couldn't have attacked previously. So I think that the fact that damage mode might actually be kind of serious makes me think that like this card actually has a little bit of legs. Now, right now, the slot in my cube is taken up by the 1 mana blue card that phases a creature out and gives it a counter.
Slip out the back.
Slip out the back. Thank you. I don't know that I'd rather have this than slip out the back. But I don't think it's as crazy of a comparison as I did when I originally saw the card.
Yeah, like you called it a charm, and I think that puts in perspective. Sometimes like you see 2 modes, but there's actually hidden extra modes, which the card that kind of cued me into that was Arch Druid's Charm, the triple green card for MKM, which has 3 modes written on it, but actually does like 6 things or something like that. And this has extra modes that aren't like explicitly written out, like kill target blocking creature or whatever. My concern about this, and the reason I gave it D-range thing, is not necessarily because I don't see the flexibility or power, but exactly what you said is like, what would I replace in a cube for this, and like what's my intention behind it? Is it purely proactive? Is it purely defensive? Am I intending people to use the second mode to kind of like push damage in a blue deck or something like that? And I'm not sure. I'm not sure in a 360 size cube that I would find room for this over something else unless I had an explicit plan for it. Why do you not like the unmask thing? Is it just like forced, or is it some other reason? Like you just don't like Spider-Man?
Yeah, sure. I'll talk about it now. So no, I think the problem with it is that there is no mechanical relationship whatsoever between the 2 cards. It's not a black card. It's not a card that lets you remove things from your hand to reduce the cost. It doesn't look at your opponent's hand. It doesn't make them discard their card. It has no mechanical relationship whatsoever at all. And I feel like it would have been easy enough to give it that mechanical relationship. And so because there's no mechanical relationship, it's just this art callback. And it feels a little bit to me like kind of using this beloved artist and card to kind of launder Spider-Man into the Magic universe in a way that it just feels kind of forced. It's like they didn't. Yeah, I feel like they could have done a little bit more work on this card and actually made it a really cool callback. And instead, it's just the art. The art's the thing that's the callback, and I feel like it's a miss.
Exile a blue card from your hand to cast it for free, or something like that.
Something like, I don't know, just like anything.
I wonder if it was commissioned to be this, or if RK Post just got like Spider-Man's secret identity and did it himself or themselves. I actually don't know RK Post gender or anything, but I wonder if it was on the artist or on the like art commissioner here. I actually don't know, but I also think it's a little bit like, okay, I get the flavor and the art and the name, but the mechanical effect like just doesn't line up at all. Yeah, card is card though. If people are gonna try it out in their cubes, or this might be like one of those week 1 limited things where we come back to it and we're like, yeah, this card's just like doing absolute work or whatever.
Yeah, I think if you can find something to do, like you said, with the Lava Axe mode, I think that's really where you've kind of got me interested in this card. Card that jumps to mind is something like Nyxborn Hydra or Heartfire Hero as another option, of course. But like Nyxborn Hydra specifically is the card that jumped out to me of like massive thing that, I guess it has trample, so you don't really need to give it flying. But if you do, it's a pretty hard to, because it's just going to be absolutely massive. Pretty hard to deal with.
Yeah, kind of cool the more I think about it. I'll come back to that one. So next card is Unstable Experiment, one of the early cards spoiled for this set. 1 in a blue for an instant at common. Target player draws a card, then up to 1 target creature you control connives. And it targets a player so that it doesn't completely fizzle if they kill your creature target out from underneath it. Though it's still pretty sad if you target yourself and target a creature and they kill the creature in response, then it just becomes a 2-mana cantrip. But at least it doesn't like completely fizzle or anything like that. Connive is back as well. I think it's in the kind of Grixis spectrum. It might only be blue-black, but I think red has the Mayhem stuff, so I don't think red actually gets Connive, but it's definitely in the blue-black spectrum, and that was the Streets of New Capenna mechanic that was draw a card, discard a card, and then put a +1/+1 counter on the conniving creature if you discarded a non-land card. Kind of a cool, like just a generally cool mechanic, and looks like it's kind of pushing aggro a little bit more in the blue space in this set than it was in New Capenna. This card itself, I don't know, if you get both modes of it and you can use it as a combat trick in some way, then it seems pretty strong. Like, just imagine the obviously, again, best case, but imagine that I jam my 2/2 into your 2/2. I use this to pump my creature while also drawing a card and then looting another card away. Seems pretty good to me. Obviously, there's a fail case of them sniping your creature, or you have no creature in play at all, and then it's just 2-mana cycle, which is pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, if you could take advantage of that, that's pretty good. If you care about the draw 2 at instant speed, that's pretty decent. There's also, like, this card just kind of like instant speed Chart a Course in some spots. Like, once you get to the point where you no longer need to make your land drops, it's basically just a draw 2 at that point for 2 mana at instant speed, which is pretty nice. This is one of those cards that doesn't read to me the same as just draw 2, discard 1, even though it's better than that for the most part. But yeah, I think this is pretty cool. It's also really cool when your opponent's on 1 card in library, and you can set up to deck them on the next turn.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the creature in play and it survives, like if you get, if you're living the dream, then this is pretty best in class of Jason. I'd say we haven't gotten draw 2, discard 1 at instant speed for 2 mana ever before. We've had a few at 3 mana, and we obviously had sorcery versions at 2 mana. There's the Rolling Dragon Storm from TDM, which is an enchantment that you could pick up back to your hand if you play a dragon. So, but in terms of instant speed, draw 2, discard 1, we've never seen that before. And this has some upside on top of that, and potentially in the counter. But obviously, you have to have the creatures in play. So I see this as, I gave it like a C-, and that's not me saying I think the card is really bad. I think the card is actually kind of exciting. It just, you have to play it in a deck with tons of creatures. Like, it's such a disaster if you don't have a target for this. And then the question is, like, okay, in your environment, how often is blue playing a deck with a ton of creatures? If this is not a card that your blue control decks are ever going to look at, that's something to keep in mind. I just feel like it's a blue aggro creature card. I do think it works really nicely with, Mystic, Messenger, Skyray, all those kinds of cards. Shoreline Looter also probably appreciates this card a fair amount. So I think I see reason enough to try this. I just want to underline, like, you can't put this in your average blue deck, I don't think. You do need to have not just a lot of creatures, but a lot of cheap creatures to be able to enable this in the early turns of the game.
This should be a cool one for decks that want it, but you have to kind of... it could even trap people a little bit if you put it in a cube where like all the blue decks are spell heavy decks or something like that. You might actually be doing a disservice to some of the less skilled drafters there. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, a couple other shout outs with this card too is that one, I like, we are looking for cards like this that encourage you to kind of do more novel things, like playing blue creature decks. We currently have been on is it Unending Whisper from Dragonstorm Tarkir?
Yeah, which people have not bitten on at all, but
yeah, and I think this is a much more tempting offer, and I also think that it's interesting, like you mentioned, with the like Marauding Mako, Scrounging Skyray. There's also like the Containment Construct sort of space, and I think if you can find ways to do that, obviously any Mayhem cards that end up being cubable appreciate this, Madness, all that sort of stuff. There's a bunch of synergies that getting that discard does, and it doesn't really cost you anything, assuming you meet the hoops to jump through and you don't get blown out by removal. Like, assuming that you meet those 2 qualifications, this is kind of just a free discard outlet.
Yeah, there's some cool upside. I mean, Connive has a lot of like little edge cases with other stuff, which is cool. I like the mechanic. This next one, though, let me tell you. So this is Whoosh. I assume you're supposed to pronounce it like that. 1 in a blue for common instant, has a kicker cost of 1 in a blue. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If this spell is kicked, draw a card.
What?
Like that
A plus.
seriously, like I've never this is a this is a really innovative, cool, exciting design right here. Not sure I've ever seen anything like it. Really makes the Spider-Man set pop. Like, whew, I mean, I certainly haven't seen this card twice before, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, in the blink of an eye, they suddenly print the best blue bounce spell I think I've ever seen.
Well, imagine your opponent has a Colossal Dreadmon play, and you just get to bounce it to their hand and draw a card. It's crazy.
That's incredible, and you can just fire it off as a 2-mana bounce. Like, whew.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about Spider Bite, and it could bounce anything for 3 mana, and all you got was a 2/2. You pay 1 additional mana now, and we're drawing a card on an instant. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
wow.
Hold on. I have to Google something real quick. 2009, do some quick math real quick. Okay, 2009, 25, 26. Yeah, this 16. This certainly doesn't feel like the type of card that would have been printed like 16 years ago or whatever. Anyway, next card is Robotics Mastery, which has some leftover art from Edge of Eternities that didn't make it into the set, I guess.
It absolutely is.
This Terminator ash card that I don't know what. I don't know Spider-Man lore. I don't know what's going on here in the flavor text. Mendel Strom.
Pretty sure this is Spider-Man's dad, I think, right?
Oh yeah, that's Ben.
Spider-Man's dad in the
Is
art,
that Ben when he was shot and then he turned into Terminator?
No, Ben is the uncle. Ben is the uncle.
Oh, who's Spider-Man's dad? Is he one of the
I have
supportive
no idea.
parents?
I don't know.
Who is Mendel Strom?
I don't know, but he didn't just seek revenge. Spider fans, where are you? Please, somebody explain. Card's kind of cool. It's 4 and a blue for an uncommon aura. It has flash, enchants a creature. When the aura enters, it makes, or you create 2 1/1 colorless robot artifact creature tokens. Couldn't have been Thopters there. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2. So, I mean, this one's all about landing it, right? Like, this is classic 2-for-1 aura. If you get sniped out from underneath this thing, that's game over. But
on the flip
flash
side,
always
you
helps.
can flash your Whirler Rogue enchantment onto your creature in response to a burn spell, and
yeah,
like you could.
It kind of is just Whirler Rogue.
Blocks,
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of risk involved and a lot of upside here. It is basically just Whirler Rogue, like reimagined as an aura, which is not something that I had on my bingo card or knew that I wanted, and I'm not sure if I want it or not. But this is cool. This is at least like an innovative design. I guess it's here because of the modified theme, right? Like they just wanted more auras and stuff.
I will say this is the kind of card that might slip into our Neo Cube as a sweet enchantment that makes some artifacts and plays well in that space.
Yeah, the card that this reminded me of is Raised by Wolves from
Born of the Gods. God, I hate that set.
Which, let's see, Born of the Gods came out. Born of the Gods release date. That came out in 2014. So this is 11 years ago. They came out with Raised by Wolves. And Raised by Wolves was 3 and 2 green for an aura that gave you 2/2/2 green wolves and gave the creature an enchanted +1/+1 for each wolf you control. And that card was insane.
It was,
and limited.
yeah.
It was a completely busted card, and it totally went against the grain because auras, generally speaking, in Magic's history have been awful. This card was insane. And ever since then, they've been giving us slightly different versions of Raised by Wolves to see if they can, like, create something that's good but not this insane, and they've failed, most of the time. It's really tough for me to stomach 5-mana aura. It's just like...
Yeah.
You gotta, like, even if you sneak this in and you don't get blown out immediately, then they untap and they kill your creature, and it's like, all right, you got a little bit of value, sure, but you spent 5 mana. It's like, I don't know, like, I think it's very cool. There are definitely spots where this will be insane, but I think 5 mana for an aura.
Well, because this had flash, though, to be fair to the flash on the card, you said that if they untap and just kill your creature, but more likely you're gonna untap. And
sure.
You're going to instep this, and then you get to untap and do something. So I think it's
okay. But are you ever casting this in open mana? No, right?
Oh no, I'm never doing that. No.
Yeah, I think it's I mean I love stuff like this from Universes Beyond because I didn't know the T800 was in the Spider-Man universe. Like I didn't know those two universes existed.
The spider
together.
lore is fascinating, yeah.
Look, I'll give him credit. Very cool card. I am extremely weary of like trying this. Like, I don't even want to try it.
This to me is the classic like wait for the retail experience and see if it just like is a best in class. My suspicion, the easy bet on these kind of cards is just assume it's bad and make it prove itself to be good.
The thing is, like, every time, what's the is it Knightly Valor, the 5 mana +2/+2 vigilance, and then when it enters you make a 2/2 knight? That card's been in so many sets, and I am drawn to it every time. And sometimes it's decent. The first time it was printed, it was incredible. It was an incredible card in whatever Ravnica set it was in, Gatecrash or whatever.
I think in fairness, I think this card's going to be great in retail. My guess is this is going to be a really high pick and a great card in retail. The issue is that it's 5 mana, so it's like that makes it way more justifiable in retail in my mind versus in Cube. But yeah, I would be surprised if this doesn't have really good stats in retail. I just think it's a different world. Like the fact that I can't cast my 5 mana card until you're tapped out, I think that's just kind of hard to justify for Cube.
I will say I also keep mentally trying to insert that your creature, the enchanted creature, gets flying, and it's not that. Like I keep getting baited by the artifacts, the robot artifacts having flying, where it's like, this is astral wingspan that gives you +2/+2 in flying.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, you can slap this on an opponent's creature just to get your 2/1/1s. Just saying.
You could. You can do. Oh, and then you can Core Skyfisher to pick it back
and
up.
then you made him a 4/4. You blow him up with your what was? I'm not.
Very important. Very important. Essence Reliquary returns auras attached to the creature that you return to your hand. Also, so you can it's an infinite loop. How can they stop it?
Yeah, it's unbeatable, really. And then, just jump into Ponder. It's such a culture shock or some sort of shock. Maybe not culture shock, but it's definitely a shock to go from normal Magic cards in retail limited set to here's Ponder, by the way. It's just like, oh, okay. And we're almost 100% sure Ponder is going to be common. If not uncommon, it's fine. And that's immediately the best blue cantrip by a lot. I do love me a Thought Scour and a Consider for decks that can get this energy out of those, but Ponder's just a powerhouse cantrip, and welcome to have it.
Yeah. Also pairs well with Thought Scour because you can get the one card you want and then Thought Scour yourself to get rid of the other two. This is just immediately like best in class territory. It obviously has quote unquote the brainstorm lock thing where your next 2 draws may not be very good. That being said, if they aren't all good, or if you can't afford to have them be all good, you get to get rid of them. And this is the only cantrip in the game that allows you to look at 4 cards, because you could look at the 3 and then take a shuffle if none of them get you out of the situation you're in. So yeah, this is the cantrip that looks the most cards for the least amount of mana.
The only thing I wanted to say is that I do think that cantrips are a little overrated in general. I think Ponder in Vintage Cube is a totally different thing than Ponder in Peasant Cube. Like the fact that in Vintage, not only do you have combos that you're looking to combine, but you also have individual cards that have insane power like Time Walk and Ancestral Recall, and you just don't have that in Peasant. The power level is much flatter, and so I think that I'll still probably play with it. Even though I don't even really push very strong on non-creature synergies, I do have some, but I do think that cantrips are much better in Peasant Cube if you do have some sort of non-creature synergy that you're building around. I don't think necessarily. I'll probably throw Ponder into any blue deck, but I don't think it's really raising the floor of it that much when I do, unless I'm specifically synergizing around it.
I think I do agree with you. I think the more powerful the environment, like in our mainline cube, I like cantrips a little more here because there's more cards that matter. And you want your cards to generate card advantage in Peasant because the games are going to usually go to a certain length. That being said, Ponder is sort of where, even without synergy as just a cantrip that looks at cards, you do start seeing so many cards
I agree.
Your odds of getting out of a given scenario go up pretty high.
I do think it's a good card. I want to be clear. I just think that sometimes, for instance, I don't think I would first pick Ponder in Peasant Cube, and I think some people might, and that's where I'm kind of drawing the line. I think it's like a C+. I think I'd pretty much always play it, but I don't think it's like a pull into blue for me.
Yeah, I think I disagree. I think it's just a tier above any cantrips that we would have been playing for the past year. Like it's just it is significantly better even in cubes that don't have ancestrals or whatever. Like the amount it digs, and especially for decks that need to find specific things or are looking for answers or whatever, I think it's just significantly better than the options that we have. Obviously better than like your opts and your sleight of hands, but I think it's also just better than your thought scours and stuff like that outside of the graveyard synergy deck. So I think I would disagree. I would put this in the B range. I would not have it in the C range personally.
I think I would also put it in the C range.
I think people will see it as an A+ in whatever pack it's opened in. I
think people are used to watching Vintage Cube, and where LSV will be like, first picking Ponders, and he's just like, it's just a great card. It'll make every deck, and it makes it way better. And I think for me, Ponder is more, it's just like it's excellent support. It is absolutely excellent support, but I need a reason to be blue in my mind before I'm going into blue for Ponder. That's just my take right now, but I could be wrong.
I think that's fair.
The biggest downside of a card like Ponder in Peasant Cube is just your deck has like 23 spell slots in it essentially, and you're going to have to cut something that could have played to the board or generated value in order to fit this, and that means less in powerful environments because the games are over quickly, so seeing more cards is good, and games have individual cards that will win the game on their own, like Daneelius said. In Peasant, there's just not that many that do that, but yeah, Ponder, like I said, Ponder does see so many cards that it gets to the point of being like, all right, you probably are just supposed to play this a lot.
You're definitely supposed to play it in any blue deck. I do agree with Daneelius that you're not supposed to necessarily first pick this, though. I mean, depends on what else is in the pack, obviously. I could see first picking it, whereas I would never first pick a sleight of hand or an opt or something like that. But
sure.
I don't think I would imagine most packs will have other stuff to where I wouldn't first pick Ponder. But whatever, it's a good cantrip is what it boils down to. It's one of the best, if not the best cantrip, depending on what else is surrounding it in your environment. But enough about that. This black card. let me tell you about this black card here. Scorpion Sting. 1 in a black for a common instant. Target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. And the flavor text, I'm going to kill you, bug.
A+.
I mean, first off, so simple, right? It's just so simple.
No comps. It's crazy that it's so simple since there's no comps for it ever in the history.
No, there's nothing, especially not like a card from MH3 or what. Like there just certainly isn't. And I mean, this is just a really innovative, cool, and exciting design. Like I'm just not sure I've ever seen anything like it before. It really makes the Spider-Man set pop.
Also, he's lying. He's threatening to kill a bug, and did you know, on the Arena client, there are 25 bugs that this does not kill?
Oh, wow.
There's that many 4 toughness insects.
This is the content that people come here for.
Yeah, anyway.
Now, it does kill the Spider-Man we looked at the beginning of the episode, so maybe that's the specific bug he's trying to kill.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, so... real black card. Prison Break. 4 in a black for sorcery, uncommon. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. And then it has our first instance of Mayhem, which is 3 in a black. And just as a reminder for people who may not have seen it, Mayhem says if you discard this card, you may play it or cast it from your graveyard until the end of that turn. And unlike Madness, which is very similar, it doesn't let you cheat time and restrictions. So if you discard a card with Mayhem on an opponent's turn, the only way you can cast it is if it's an instant or flash, or you have some sort of flash enabler in play. Prison Break, basically, if you discard it from your hand during your turn, you have until the end of that turn to play it from your graveyard for a cheaper cost, in which case this becomes like a 4-mana reanimation spell that brings back the creature a little bit bigger.
Yeah, so I'm actually kind of sad that this one's first in the document because I think it deserves less discussion than the next one, which also is a Mayhem card. But so I think getting into Mayhem a little bit here is worthwhile. Mayhem and Madness are very similar. If you have played with Madness before, there's definitely similarities. The timing restriction part is the most obvious one on its face, where it's like this is it seems like just a straight downside because you can't cast your sorcery at instant speed on your opponent's turn with Madness. Mayhem doesn't let you do that unless the card itself is an instant. There is one major upside for Mayhem over Madness, which is that because you don't have to cast the card immediately, you get to benefit from doing other things in between when you discarded this card and then casting it. The number one thing that you get access to is land drops. So if you imagine that you're on turn 3, you don't have your 4th land, you attack with your Shoreline Looter, you discard this into your graveyard, you drew your land, you play your 4th land, now you can cast this for 4 mana. I think that's actually very relevant upside on the Mayhem ability, because a lot of the times the cards that you're going to be looking to pair this with are cards that have kind of static looting on them or rummaging, and you don't want to be forced in this position where at the point you do that rummaging, you have to have all the mana to cast the card. So that is, I think, quite relevant upside. I don't know how it comes out in the wash of like, is Mayhem better than Madness or whatever, but that's not really important.
It almost doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah. But one thing to note, if you have played with Madness before, it again might not be obvious on the as you're reading the card, is that when you do cast one of these cards for Mayhem or Madness, assuming you discarded this card off of like a loot effect or rummage effect where you're drawing cards, this effectively gives you +1 card. And that isn't obvious, but you can kind of read the Mayhem ability as saying draw a card, not exactly, but I mean that's effectively what's happening there. So seeing this as a Zombify that puts a counter on a creature and draws a card, I think makes this pretty exciting. Now the question is, how often are you actually going to be able to Mayhem this? I want to get into that more with the next card. My feeling right now is that it's going to be a little too niche, that I would want the power output on this to be really impressive, and I don't think it's that impressive. In general, I think reanimation as a strategy has just gotten worse and worse over the years as it's become harder and harder to justify playing, big creatures that don't have cheap buyouts. So you're going to target your Troll of Khazad-dûm with this, maybe your Armadillo. There are some things to target, but this doesn't really have a natural home anymore in my cube, so I doubt I'm going to run it. But I do think that upside on Mayhem being like kind of draw a card on top of what you're doing does mean it's worth at least consideration, especially if you're running some kind of reanimation package.
Yeah, I think 4's expensive enough too that you kind of want to have exactly the card Shoreline Looter in your deck in order to take advantage of this card. And so like you're cycling Troll of Khazad-dûm and then, hitting with your Shoreline Looter to Mayhem this. And like that seems fine in like a blue-black control-y shell, I guess. But I don't really know if those cards are going to end up making the same deck super often, because otherwise you're using cards that are more naturally synergistic with this, which are like Scrapwork Mutt type cards or a Reverent Gremlin, but those are going to require mana investment previously, whether it's the creature that triggers the Gremlin or whether it's the Mutt itself to discard this. And then you're looking at like 6 mana and you're not really getting away with much anymore.
The good news there is that the decks that already have the stuff that can enable Mayhem very well are also usually pretty good at just getting creatures in the graveyard. So like if you are doing like blue-black Reanimator and you have like your Tomebound Lich or your Dreadwing Scavenger or whatever in your gold section, right, you should be able to get creatures in the like reanimatable creatures in the graveyard very easily with those, and then set this up as well. But my problem with this card compared to other like 5 mana reanimation spells or things in that vein is that like there's a lot of setup involved with it between, I mean, like kind of not really, because you can always just cast it for 5 mana and it's like okay if you're getting back a 6-drop or 7-drop or whatever, but
you wouldn't cube that.
No, you wouldn't, but you got to get a creature in the graveyard that's worth reanimating, and you presumably need something that can discard this, and then you also need 4 mana up in addition to your discard effect if it's not a free discard effect. So I'm kind of like totally off of this. I just don't care unless you're specifically enabling Mayhem in some way or doing some sort of reanimator discard thing. I would just rather play any of the other 5 mana reanimation spells with upsides or alternatives or whatever.
Also, it needs to be noted that if you're playing in paper, the art on this card is truly abysmal in a set full of bad art.
Interesting. It's interesting.
Well, one thing to note too is that because of the discard requirement, I really only see this as a Grixis card, and that's going to be the same for the next card. But and that does take a lot away from a Zombify, because I think that green-black is often the place that you want to play a Zombify in, and there's just not going to be that many ways to discard in green and black. So I generally think you want to be playing this with blue and red cards, and that makes it even more narrow than it otherwise would have been.
All right, well, let's get into this other one because I know you're really excited. This might be your highest grade of the set. Sandman's Quicksand. Do you want to go through that one for us?
Sure. So this is 1 black for a sorcery. It has Mayhem for 3 and a black, like the last card. And it says, all creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. But if the spell's Mayhem cost was paid, instead, creatures your opponents control get -2/-2 until end of turn. So if you Mayhem this, it only targets your opponents. Otherwise, it targets everything. So Golden Demise is the template for this card. 3 mana to give everything -2/-2. We've had many different versions of that Golden Demise effect, and I would say, generally speaking, they're not cubable. There's a couple that people definitely still cube with. There's one, I don't remember the name now, but it's Golden Demise and it has a Scry 1 on top of it. So some people have played that, and there's other versions that do still see some play. Arms of Hadar, however, is 3 and a black for a sorcery that just gives your opponent's creatures -2/-2 until end of turn. This is paper only. This one is not on Arena. But what I hear from people who paper cube a lot is that Arms of Hadar is busted, one of the best cards in Peasant, period. And when you look at Quicksand, if you mayhem this, then it's Arms of Adar. That's just what it is. Except for it's not. It's better than Arms of Adar because, again, you're casting it for its mayhem cost, so you're +1 card, usually based on the ways that you're doing this in Peasant. So this is, if you're able to do the thing, this is Arms of Adar +1 card. And that to me is like, A+ level, busted, broken. -2/-2 to just your opponent's creatures is such a powerful effect. We see that on Round the Implicit Maze, for instance, but that's a 5-mana card, and you can't splash Round the Implicit Maze. You can splash this and say a blue-red deck that is trying to do a lot of discarding. So my main argument here is just that the top-level power output on this card is outrageous. I think that is 100% the case. And then the question just becomes, how realistic is it for you to actually be able to do the mayhem? And going back to the last card we talked about, it definitely narrows the scope of this card. You're generally playing it only in the Grixis space. Though, like I said before, I do think this makes a lot of sense as a splash card in a blue-red deck. And even there, though, the question is, even in Grixis, how often are you going to be able to discard this relatively freely? Because I think that if you need, 2 mana to discard something, and then into this, now you're turning this into a 6-mana effect, that makes it a lot less exciting to me, for sure. So the cards I most want to pair this with, Shoreline Looter, like we mentioned before, the Modern Age is another good enabler for this. Kasmina enables this. The Bath Song enables this. All of these are cards that discard cards with all of your mana open available to you. Red has cards that can help with this. The Reckless Detective is one. There's Faithless Looting only costs 1 mana. If you have a Blood in play, those are only 1 mana, and I think that's I think it's fine if you're spending 1 extra mana on top of this to then get this effect. So I think the key with this card is just how much enabling do you have in your environment, specifically of 1 mana and cheaper ways of discarding things into the yard. If you can get, and then the question is how many of those effects do you want in your deck before you're really kind of ecstatic to run this card? I think it's minimum 3 and preferably 4 or 5, in that range. And I don't know. I don't know how realistic that's going to be. But what I like about this card is, to me, I see this early in a draft and I'm like, this is worth building around. This is worth going after discard effects. Mm-hmm. It's like a real signpost for doing discard stuff. And that's exciting to me because I think like I said, the upside on this card I think is really outrageous.
Yeah, I think on average, this card is probably worse than Golden Demise, which has been in our cube for a million years, because it's not actually that difficult to get 10 permanents into play to make it one-sided. However, I kind of like this more, first of all, because the ceiling is higher. But secondly, because you actually have to go through something to get it to work. One of my frustrations with Golden Demise as a card is that you and your opponent can both be on the I'm just kind of going wide and playing a bunch of game objects game plan. And then you're playing black, so you have Golden Demise and you draw it against your opponent's go wide board and you play it and you win the game. And, sure, that's good for you for having the Golden Demise, but it does sort of feel like, okay, well, that was a little one-sided. It just rewarded you for having a bunch of stuff in play. Whereas I like that this card, like I said, the ceiling is higher because it's kind of like your opponent's creatures get -2/-2 and you draw a card, which is pretty ridiculous. But also it has a hoop to jump through. And I'm just a fan of when cards have hoops to jump through. I know drafters are not always a fan of that, but I think these sort of things are what keep draft interesting, is trying to find things to pair this with to get full maximum value out of it.
I think Golden Demise is still. I think Golden Demise has been in our cube literally the entire time. I don't think it's ever come out of our Peasant cube. I mean, you're focusing a lot on the mayhem, and obviously you wouldn't just play Infest 1 black, give everything -2/-2, but that's pretty effective sometimes too. The mayhem stuff is all the upside. You're going to go out of your way to try to make sure you have ways to mayhem it, but against some decks, 1 black -2/-2 actually just does the trick too. So you have the small ball effect here too, which I think is relevant and kind of gives you a reason to like put this card in your deck and then start looking for the upside to get it mayhemmed out. I could go up to B range. I have it at C+. I could definitely go up to B range if like on a regular basis you can actually mayhem this, but it is going to come down to like how often you can actually do that. And it's not clear to me right now unless you're like really building discard stuff into your black section or pairing this with blue. And I don't know yet. I'm hesitant to go as high as Daneelius is, but obviously like the upside's definitely there. But yeah, I guess if you're framing this as like all mayhem cards are technically draw a card cantrips when you do them, which I think it's a slight exaggeration. Basically, you're paying for like some other effect. You're paying for some other.
It's not draw
effect.
a card. It's just plus a card. That's all it is.
Yeah. You've got some carded equity or whatever there.
And by the way, yeah, I was saying Golden Demise the whole time. I meant to say Infest, but actually that's wrong too. It's surprising to me that everybody always says Infest, but it's really Massacre. Massacre was the first version of this deck from like a really long time ago. But yeah, I meant to say Infest. I do think Golden Buys is a much better version of Infest and is a very peasant playable card. It has a similar rider to this where you're trying to get something to happen and then you get to just target your opponent's creatures. The big difference is that you can't really ever Golden Demise on turn 3 or turn 4, early on in the game to stop your opponent's aggression unless you have no board yourself. And this to me, the way I'm envisioning it is turn 2 Looter, turn 3 whatever, I'm building my board, and then turn 4 I just get to naturally play this to essentially 3-for-1 your opponent if they have a couple targets, because you kill 2 of their things, you draw a card. That's just like a game-winning play when that's how it happens. Now again, I agree with you. I don't know how often it's going to happen, but if that's a reasonably consistent play pattern for this card, I think it's totally outrageous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Golden Demise also has the slight downside in current era Magic of being kind of maximized by the game objects deck, because they're just the decks that are most able. Like, it's kind of hard to cast, but it's the deck that's most able to just turn out a bunch of junk to get the thingy online, and then the best decks, the way you punish that deck tends to be with aggression. And so it's kind of like this card punishes the tokens deck that would otherwise keep this deck in check. So like, I do really like this card. I don't know if there's room for more than one of this effect in our cube. So I would like to try this if we're competing, figure out a way to run this, because I think this is a really compelling.
Yeah, this has potential to be one of the best cards in the set for sure. Next one is Eerie Gravestone, which it's an artifact, but it's got a black activation classified as black here. It's 2 generic mana for an artifact at common. When it enters, draw a card. And then you can pay 1 in a black and sacrifice it to mill 4 cards and then put a creature card from among them into your hand. So not just any creature from your graveyard, but it has to be from among the milled, which obviously narrows its scope. It could even miss, which would be disastrous. But I immediately compared this to Deduce, right? Like 2 mana, draw my card now, pay 2 mana later, draw a card, hopefully. you did some math here. Looks like 15 creatures in deck, you're 85% to hit, which does mean I will miss 85% of the time.
100% of the time.
Yeah. I mean, if you hit, obviously you can't dig through your whole graveyard, but if you hit, this is just you spent 4 mana to draw 2 cards with some extra mill selection, and it's an artifact as well, which matters for some stuff. So a lot of little knobs here. This is what I would call like a Buffalo card. If you care about milling, if you care about filling up your graveyard, you care about artifacts, then this is just like a fine generic draw spell that you can put in those black decks.
Yeah, I really like that they're giving us a lot of different versions of this kind of spare supplies sort of card. They're Mephitic Draft, Deduce, Cryogen Relic. There's a lot of these cards now where it's like 2 mana, get a card, and then an object that is relevant in some way. The cool thing about this, in my mind, is that black hasn't, I think, ever gotten mill 4 on one of these effects. This is generally speaking the amount of digging that green gets to do on these effects. So 4 is a lot, and that is why you're so likely to hit in a 15 creature deck. The problem with this card, as I see it, is that the kinds of cards in my environment where I want to run a game object like this tend to not be the kinds of decks where I'm running a lot of creatures. Usually I want to be doing other sort of non-creature game object-y sort of stuff. So I can imagine worlds where it's actually not that easy to get tons of creatures into your deck with this. But yeah, I mean, to me, this seems like a solid little glue card. You're going to play it in some artifact decks. You're going to play it in some graveyard, green-black graveyard decks. I think it's, C- in that it's kind of niche, but I can definitely see it.
Yeah, I like this has some additional upside too of being like, obviously you would like to sack this to its effect, but sometimes like in your green black deck, Agatha's Champion can be a hard card to enable on occasion if you just don't have a free one. And this is a card that, you've already bought out on it. So like if you played it early and you were going to mill with it, but you need to use it to sack to your Agatha's Champion or your, Deadly Dispute or your Sokinson Smelter or whatever, like this can slip into other decks because the floor is decent enough with that spare supplies, like draw a card for 2 mana text. And not that that's something you would put in your deck if you couldn't activate the activate ability on this, but like just that sometimes the available buyout on this is nice, and sometimes like mill is closer to drawing half a card. And so if you do hit on this, right, you sack it and now you have some stuff in your graveyard that you care about for the unlimited number of things you might do with it, mostly in green black. You've generated a little extra value. So I think this is a little bit better than like the Deduce style card I guess it's kind of a wash, right? Because in deduce decks, you kind of care about deduce being an instant or a spell, and in these decks, you kind of care about the mill. So it's like which I guess edge do you care about? And it's nice because it's in different, in these different colors. Like the black graveyard decks really do care about that mill.
Yeah. So the nice little trinket. Cryogen, relic, deduce. I like these little trinkety things that we keep getting. So. Add one to the pile. Well, maybe we can find room for this one. I think it's a cool design. Does bring us to the last black card, which is pretty simple. It's the Spots Portal. 2 and a black for an uncommon instant. Put target creature on the bottom of its owner's library. You lose 2 life unless you control a villain. So you lose 2 life. I think there's a Doctor Who card that is just a mono black card that puts a creature on the bottom of its owner's library. So I guess this is something like a color pie bend or whatever. It's not really a break if they're going to keep doing it like this, but we don't really see black doing this sort of thing very often. It's essentially like exile a creature for 3 mana and lose 2 life. So kind of like an Infernal Grasp or whatever that doesn't let the creature go to the graveyard. I don't know. Unless I'm missing some sort of edge on putting the creature on the bottom, it just seems like like a murder variant. Obnixilus's Cruelty is something that you compared it to, which is the 3 mana -5/-5 exile the creature if it dies. Very comparable. This can get anything, obviously, up to Cruelty, exile. So I don't know. Take whatever edge you want on these 3 mana black removal spells and pick out whichever one you like, I guess.
Yeah, not a lot to say on this, other than the fact that it effectively exiles, or it gets around graveyard recursion, indestructibility, blah, blah, blah. And we did just talk about in the Skyfisher episode that is one way. If recursion is starting to really dominate in your environment, then bringing in more exile-like removal is a way to fight that, and this is a way to fight that. Nixilus's Cruelty is probably better, but that doesn't kill, your 6/7 green creature. So this does. So I mean, I doubt this gets run, but if you are specifically looking to push the amount of exile removal in your environment, I think this is an option.
Mm-hmm. Or if you're playing villains, I guess. I don't know.
There you go. Yeah.
Black removal. It's fine. It's fine. It's playable. Red moves us to red, and we get to start off with Superior Foes of Spider-Man, or whatever.
What a name.
Whatever.
Wait, guys, did we review Foes of Spider-Man already?
Well, we didn't have to because we've got the Superior Foes of Spider-Man.
Yeah, we don't need. Why would we review just foes when we can get the
like? What are you doing over there? What do you do? It's just a 2/2 trample with the same ability. Superior Foes of Spider-Man, 2 and a red for a 3/3 trample, which is kind of the reason we're talking about it. 3/3 trample for 3 is fine. It's uncommon. It's a human rogue villain, so your Spots Portal won't cost any life. Whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, you may exile the top card of your library. If you do, you may play that card until you exile another card with this creature. So my understanding here is that if this creature dies, you still have access to the exiled card. And then, obviously what you want to do is the Furious Rise thing where you want to play the card this exiled before you use its ability again. Because the exiled card just sticks around as long as you want it to until you use this ability again, in which case the other card goes away. So what you really want to do is just chain a bunch of 4 mana spells together that exile into more 4 mana spells or hit lands or whatever. That's not always going to happen, but this is like a red card draw engine, I guess, for decks with enough expensive things to trigger it, and it's a 3 mana 3/3 trample, which is a decent enough buyout as a creature stat line to kind of get it into your deck.
This is an interesting card in that it is actually, you could put a green symbol into its mana cost, and this card would be the exact same card.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of hoops that they have to jump through here to put card draw on a red creature without just saying draw a card is really funny, because this is really close to just draw a card. You have to show them the card, and, it's not... I guess always draw. I don't know. This is draw card. So as we said before, persistent card draw on creatures in Peasant, not a normal thing, especially not a normal thing for a red creature. So this is kind of wild in my mind. At the same time, it's a 3 mana 3/3 that has trample. Like that body, I think you call that body. That's the reason why it's here. I disagree. Like I would have no interest in just a 3 mana 3/3 trample, even with red's kind of terrible.
No, you need cards. Something on top of it. Obviously,
yeah, you need card draw is what you need on top of it.
And the problem is your average red deck has like an Aimer and a random
hold on.
4 mana spell.
No, but this is the nice thing. Okay, so somebody was talking about this, how they were upset that this card got this templating instead of the Final Fantasy template. Or no, sorry, what was it where you just had to spend 4 mana? That was Final Fantasy, right?
Yeah.
Does this work with? Hold on. Does this work with push pull and rooms?
No, only if you cast the expensive halves.
Right, but it does work with Witchstalker Frenzy and those style of cards.
Yeah.
And I think that does matter because I think in Cube, you're going to be more often able to abuse that side of things than you are able to abuse the like having spent 4 mana, because that's like, you know, you do that at best once per turn, whereas you could play a Witchstalker Frenzy and maybe multiple even cards that have like cost reductions in a deck with this. So
sure.
So there's something there. You know, how many cards do you need to draw from this before you're excited? I like 2 probably. I don't know. Like I
think 1 is fine.
But this
I think if
work
this
with warp,
replaces
right?
itself, it's fine. With what? With warp? Yeah. If yes. If you warp in.
So like if you warp your Shepherd
absolutely.
of the Stars or whatever it's called,
that counts.
you would trigger this and then get to.
Yeah, there's just more peasant. There's just more peasant relevance in my mind for this version of the text than the like having spent 4 mana one. But yeah, I mean, card draw in red. It's like I don't know how many card draw spells do you have access to in red?
Okay, so this is almost certainly worse than a NEP, but like that's a bar that might be unreasonably high.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
Sure.
I don't know. Like, I think I would have a hard time imagining that this doesn't have a place in Cube. Maybe it's a red-green only card, but I doubt it. I think like you can try to combo it in red-white with warp. Like I think there's places for this card. And yeah, you draw one card.
Yeah, you get
you're
Salt
reasonably
Road
happy.
Pack Beast too.
Yep, absolutely. Like you draw one card, you're happy enough, and if you draw multiple, like holy cow, like this card's insane. So I don't know. It seems fine.
Okay. Another question, because this is actually relevant. If we play this card, and then we all Fate Stalker, we impulse draw a card, and then we exile this card that comes back into play, and we draw another card off the ability. Does it replace it, or are those 2 separate instances of this card? How does the creature tracking there work?
Separate instances.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to double check with you guys that was what happened. That's a pretty niche interaction, but it is one that could come.
Well, I mean, All Fate Stalker's an excellent card you put in every white deck, so that is just a good way to trigger this. So, yeah, I guess there's actually quite a bit in white that comes to mind. There's the static snare or whatever as well.
It works with the refurbished familiar in black if you're playing with that. Or any other like affinity style cards. Like I think there's definitely something.
Okay,
there's some neat stuff.
There might be something here. Yeah. Works pretty well with Writhing Chrysalis.
Sure, makes your Writhing Chrysalis playable. That's a cool one. Okay, so I'm gonna throw this next one to Teld because we were pretty happy about it for the mainline cube. You said you thought it might be a little bit worse here in the peasant environment.
So this is Heroes Hangout. It's a single red for a sorcery, and it has choose one. You have exiled the top 2 cards of your library. You choose one until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. And then you have the other option is 1 or 2 target creatures each get +1/+0 and gain first strike until end of turn. So there's a number of reasons that I like this less here than I did in the mainline cube. Firstly is that I think just spells as a general strategy has gotten worse in Peasant relative to the mainline. Like I think we've even cut Monastery Swiftsphere out of our Peasant environment because it just isn't doing what it does in more powerful environments where you can be very consistently linear aggroing people. I think it not making a game object is relevant. The damage that you're pushing with the second mode of this card is much worse in a grindier environment like Peasant. In the mainline, again, a lot of times you're going to have spots, I think, where you can play this card and push just a ton of damage for 1 mana and kill your opponent. And I think the spots you get to do that are just going to be less and less important in Peasant. There's more chump blockers and things like that. And then just the general thing of cantrips being worse in a flatter, lower power environment is true as well. This strikes me as like the draw mode. I would much rather in most decks just like play 1 extra and play a Ren's Resolve or just play a experimental synthesizer instead of this card. That being said, I mean, there is kind of a floor to how bad this card could be, and I think that this card is probably clears the bar of being a fine enough card. But whereas I think in like our mainline environment, this is going to be a pretty solid cantrip that also pushes a bunch of damage like 15% of the time. I'm kind of on with whoever said that this one will probably use like 5% of the time in Peasant, because I think the context is different. The first strike isn't as relevant. There's not as much prowess damage and prowess threats going around. There's better ways to pump your cards. Just a whole host of reasons like that.
Yeah, I'm really sad this isn't an instant. Obviously, that would change the card totally. But, I think Coordinated Assault is the second line of text, or the second option here, but it's an instant. And if this was an instant, I'd almost be like, yeah, you have a cool little combat trick that sometimes you buy out as a cantrip. But given the fact that it's a sorcery, you almost have to see it, I think, as cantrip first. And as a cantrip first, it's just it's half of Mishra's research desk. I think this just makes this so much worse. It's like, yeah, okay, if you're in a deck that specifically cares about instants and sorceries, then this is better. But I took that, I took considerations for that out of my cube a while ago now. So, I think as an instant, I would have loved it, and I probably would have played with it as a sorcery. It just doesn't do enough for me.
Sure.
Yeah, I do mostly agree with you, but I will say that it is more efficient than Mishra's Research Disc, right? Because you have to pay an extra mana somewhere along the way with that card. But flip side, you also get Game Object. You also get the Unearth, which are both much more relevant in Peasant. So yeah, this is just a card that when you scale the game down to Peasant, it loses a lot of the qualities that I liked about the card in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I don't have much to say here that I didn't say about in the mainline review. I do agree it's slightly worse here, but I don't know. The ceiling's high enough as a red cantrip that it's like, if you want to play this card, you can definitely play this card, even if you're not getting like huge advantages out of it. If you have any sort of like cast from exile stuff going on, which you don't see too much in Peasant, I really wish they would explore that more in Peasant, then this gets way more interesting. Like, obviously, Commander Prosper, adage, finally a good card for Prosper or whatever. Last red card, we really don't actually have to spend time on this. I kept it here because I was going to rant about it being just like, oh, this is Torment and Voice with like no juice at all, but it's slightly different. It's Romantic Rendezvous, 1 in a red for a sorcery at common, discard a card, then draw 2 cards, and of course, got to read the flavor text, face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot. That's from Mary Jane Watson, obviously. This reads exactly like Torment and Voice with like no extra upside, but it doesn't ask you to discard as a cost. And it doesn't require you to discard a card to draw 2 cards. So if you run it out as the last card in your hand, you do just draw 2 cards for 1 in a red. And that was just enough for me to not rant about it and give it the good old web up treatment or whoosh treatment or whatever, scorpion sting treatment. That said, I don't know why you would run this over any of the other like Torment and Voices or Thrill possibilities that actually do something extra. So like that's just kind of where I came down on it.
Mary Jane awfully full of herself. She's dating a superhero and she thinks he hit the jackpot.
I do like that they're filling in like every possible nook and cranny they can in this play space. It's like,
they really
how many different versions of this effect are we going to see that are all
we gotta
slightly
get
different?
When can we get the Tormenting Voice tier list?
Yeah, right. Oh, soon. Oh, that's a good idea. I like that.
It really is. There's one per. I can't remember the last set that didn't have one of these, but obviously this is a mayhem enabler for the limited set too. This should play out pretty well in limited, but for Cube, like just play whatever the battle, or I would even play like the grab the prize before I play something like this. You're just not going to get that draw 2 very often. So moving into green, Daneelius, do you want to take this one? I'm not sure what your excitement level on the card is. To me, it just reads like the fillerest thing of all time, but
sure.
What do you have in mind for this one?
Yeah, this is Professional Wrestler. This is 3 in a green for a 4/4 Human Warrior Performer. Huge. When this creature enters, create a treasure token. That is huge. And this creature can't be blocked by more than one creature. So, I think there's a similar discussion to be had here as the card that we got in Edge of Eternities that is the 3 mana 3/3 make a lander token. There's many options we have at this point for 3 and 4 mana green creatures that have reasonable bodies and come into play and make a trinket of some kind. And we didn't have one, as far as I'm aware, a 4 mana one that had a good body that made a treasure. And I think the 3 mana 3/3 Vigilance Trample green creature, I can't remember what it's called right now, but that ETBs and makes a treasure. I think that's the best in class version of the 3 mana green version of the kind of this effect. And I think that there's a chance that this now is the best in class for the 4 mana versions of this effect. I'm currently running Fierce Witchstalker, which is 2 and 2 green for a 4/4 trample that ETBs and makes a food. I have food considerations in my environment. That's one of the reasons why I'm running it. But I think this card compares reasonably well with that, and I think I've been reasonably happy with that card. So one thing to note is I do think this creature can't be blocked by more than one creature line is relevant. I think that is maybe not as good as Trample, but I think there are situations where it's even better than Trample. So I think that line is relevant, and I think making objects is good, and green doesn't get to make objects all that well in general, and I think this is reasonable. It's not a world beater, but I give it a C-. I think it's a niche role player, but I think it's it's fine.
Yeah, my biggest excitement level here is that this is clearly a plant for when we get the WWE Universes Beyond, and I'm going to be hype AF is that for that one.
I'll be skipping that one for sure. Yeah, I mean, Jewel Thief at 4 mana, just, I don't know, it doesn't do anything for me here. It just doesn't do anything at all for me here. But green 4s basically never do, so.
This is a green 4 that is like just a green 4.
It's
just
a green 4. It's a
like, I don't...
human warrior performer.
I do think that like make a treasure is one of the most sneaky busted lines that can possibly be put on a card, and so that's kind of one of the reasons why I think it's worth thinking about here.
I mean, the higher up the curve, the less important that becomes. I mean, I don't want to discount like treasure at any point in the game, but once you start getting to 4+ drops, like it really does diminish how much that's useful for.
One of the things it does on expensive cards is it allows you to play the card and not be tapped out, which I think is can be very relevant.
Yeah, I mean that can be if you've got your protection spell or cheap fight spell or whatever. I don't want to say it's useless to have a treasure on a 6-drop or something like that. Obviously, you can always find use for treasure, but it is a treasure earlier in the game is way more important than a treasure later in the game, I think.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree.
Which is obvious because mana considerations. But
all right, guys, are you ready for Spiders Man?
Oh my god, you took it from me. I wanted to read that name to dramatic effect so bad, but.
Okay, all right, scratch that, guys. Guys. Let Tim have his
Nope,
moment.
it's already been taken. It's already out in the ether. But I kind of lost it at Spiders Man because I was like Spiders Man heroic horde, and I was like, wait a minute, what? Just like backtrack.
He is a man made of spiders.
And it's like Spider Man's. It's like no, it's not Spider Man's. It's Spiders Man. It's the and I know this character. I know it's a suit that's just like full of spiders or whatever. But like reading it, it's just like. Something's wrong there. What's wrong? Spiders, man? It's like when Dad would come in the room and be like, "Hey, Tim, what are you playing with your Pokemon cards?" And it's like you know damn well it's Pokemon. Like, why does every adult have to act like they don't know that it's called Pokemon or whatever? And it's just like, what are you reading your Spiders Man comic there? Like,
so I'm a big Spiders Man fan. So I know about this one. This one's from Earth 11580. That's the place that it comes from apparently. And here's a famous quote from Spiders Man: "Do you think I'm a man? Do you think you can bring me back from this? Even if you did, could you ever look at me again without thinking about this monster I became?"
Wow, that's pretty deep. And you didn't look that up at all. That's all from top of the
No, I just knew that off my I knew that off the top of my head.
Okay, yeah, okay. So we have. Sorry, we have Spiders. Such a Spiders Man heroic horde.
No, Spiders Man.
Spiders Man. Spiders Man.
It's
It's 1 and a green for a 2/3. We all gave it a C-.
So hold on. I kind of like the idea of when you play it, you actually say "spiders, man."
Spiders.
Like, emphasis on the other. Yeah.
You have to say that when you web sling it.
There you go.
So yeah. Anyway, Spiders Man is it is 1 and a green for a 2/3. Not a human spider hero. This one's just a spider hero. It's uncommon. It does have a
listen to the lore.
Do you want to read back the quote again?
Do you think I'm a man?
This has a more expensive web slinging ability, which might be the only one. There's probably some others. It's 4 green, 6 mana total. And if it entered using web slinging, you gain 3 life and you create 2/1 green spider creature tokens with reach. So I think you flip it on its head. You think of this as a 6-drop with the 2 mana buyout because you're not happy to run out a 2 mana 2/3 with no abilities. Are you happy though to run out a 6 mana 2/3 with 2/1 reaches and 3 life? I guess that's my question. Are you happy with that, knowing that you could run it out as a 2-drop if you've got a clunky opener, or I guess if you have anything that like returns something to your hand with a cheap mana value or something like that? This would be essentially a 6-drop you could buy back. How happy are you with the web slinging, I guess, is the question we would land on here.
I think if you disregard the web slinging cost, then I actually kind of love this card. I really like. We've talked many times now about expensive creatures needing cheap buyouts for me to get excited about them, and this has that. So 6 mana for 3 creatures, 2 with reach, so they help you against flying, and it gains you 3 life. Like, that's really solid stabilization to me. And then the fact that this does have that 2 mana buyout, and it's not like 2/3 for 2 mana is embarrassing. Like, when you need that, when you're getting beat down, that's going to be, I think, quite effective. It's just not a card you'd ever run in a million years in your queue. But yeah, if you disregard the web sling, I think this card's actually like really cool and something I definitely would want to play with. But the problem is, like, oftentimes you need your stabilizing play to be something that comes down when your board is empty, and this it doesn't do that. And I'm really concerned about, playing this card in that slot with the knowledge that I'm going to have to get something tapped to make it work. So if you have a lot of mana dorks, I think this gets even more exciting, because you imagine playing this on like turn 4 or 5 and just picking up your mana dork. I think that makes a lot more sense. One other thing to note in general about web slinging, and I think it's most important with this card, is that if you have 2 web slingers and you have anything that lets you tap your creatures outside of combat, and so you imagine like a spacecraft, a station card, then you can
perhaps
kind of
something that lets you tap them for 1 mana when you tap
like a gene pollinator or whatever. So if you have that,
or some
you can
supportive
actually,
parents.
There you go. You can loop these cards back and forth. So you can say like, play my Spider's Man with its web slinging cost. Then I'm going to tap my Spider's Man, pick that up to the web slinging card that I returned. Then I can you just keep doing that over and over again. That's obviously very inefficient. It takes a long time, but it is theoretically at least an quote unquote infinite loop. That costs mana.
Yeah. You could also do this with the card Nurturing Pixie.
Well, I was going to say, I guess that's actually very relevant here, because if you had another web slinging card in hand, you'd actually be happy to run this out as a 2, get in a 2, and then flip this back to your hand, for later use or something like that. So I think that's a good point to bring up.
I think this card, in order to actually make the cut, and maybe we try it just to see, but I sort of feel that like your stabilizing play, when you get to 6 mana and you're just needing a stabilizing play, like obviously there's no buyout on Rise of the Ants, but it's such a board presence stabilizer that it's usually enough to kind of get you enough time to flash it back, and then that wins you the game. And this doesn't really have that without additional synergy, which granted, this synergy is not particularly hard to put together. Notably, you can't reanimate this, so you have to do something like Cadaver Lab or pick it up with the back for seconds or something like that. A Raise Dead, yeah. I think this card really needed to gain some life or have reach innately, like if you didn't web sling it. If this was closer to that card from Mom that flipped into, it's like a 1/3 that for 2 that gains 3 life and then flips into a Necrotol.
Herbology instructor or whatever.
Yeah, I think if this was more like that, where, maybe we always got 3 life with this card and we got the 2 spiders if we web slinged it, I think then I'd be super into this. But as it is, a 2/3 for 2 is just such a bad buyout that I'm just not particularly interested.
It's passable. It's not bad. It's passable.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can put it in your deck, sure, but it just sort of feels very anemic, and we're really needing to get some leverage of probably triggering this a couple of times. I don't think we're happy just having it in our deck to do it one time, so we're trying to get into like Pixie Raise Dead strategies at that point.
And to back to my original point about web slinging too, like imagine you get to turn 6 and you can't get a creature tapped.
Yeah.
And then it looks
that's
terrible.
Pretty brutal. One, I think Rise of the Ants is a good card to bring up here. I have cut, finally, I did like the card, but I finally cut Rise of the Ants for my environment because it doesn't have that cheap buyout. I just don't want to run any 6 mana plays or more anymore that don't have that cheap buyout. I know you guys are not on that plan, and not every Peasant cube is on that plan, but so for me, this is a card I could consider because it does have that buyout, whereas I'm not really considering Rise of the Ants style cards anymore. But yeah, obviously on 6 mana, Rise of the Ants is going to be way better than this is. But the fact that this can, when you're dying, because they curved out 1, 2, 3 on you, this stops you from dying, where Rise of the Ants doesn't, I think is, important upside.
Yeah, it's meaningful. It's still not like overall that exciting of a card, unlike the next one, Spider's Man, Brooklyn Vision. Spider-Man, we're back to singular, just a dude in the suit. You think, what is it? You think I'm a man? Do you think I'm a man? Is that what?
Do you think I am a man?
Okay, that's appropriate here because correct me if I'm wrong.
Wait, this is a visionary that doesn't draw us a card?
No, well, it could draw you a card. Yeah. So, also just New York, Brooklyn confirmed Magic the Gathering. Spider-Man, Brooklyn Visionary, 4 and a green for a 4/3 legendary Spider-Man human hero. We're back to the trifecta there. It's a common. When it enters, search your library for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. That's kind of a terrible card, but it has web sling and 2 and a green, which raises the question marks. Like, okay, how good is it? Can we web sling on turn 3? Can we web sling on turn 2? Honestly, I don't even really think it's that impressive to go mana dork on 1 into this on 2, because you're picking up your mana dork to go get a basic, which might fix you. It just turns one source of ramp into another. Like, that's not as impressive as people make it out to be, but a permanent source of ramp is better than a temporary source of ramp, and you do get a 4/3 out pretty early. But again, like, Are you going to be able to web sling this? I don't know. Assuming you're set up to do it, it's pretty good. If you ever have to cast this for 5 mana, it's pretty bad. So, I don't know. It's a little bit polarizing, so to speak.
Especially given in the last year we've picked up Sutina and Fenrir, and Eldrazi Repurposer, that are all just so strong. It's kind of hard to accept that this card frequently isn't going to be a good turn 3 play. For me to want to get on with it. Like, as a 5 mana card, it's terrible. And so I'm not really into this one. The variance on it is just so high.
Yeah, I think you want this to be a Buffalo card before you're playing it. Like, maybe you care about the legendary creature line. You actively are looking for web slinging because maybe you're looking to loop this with Spider's Man, or maybe you're trying to get more ways in your cube to benefit from tapped creatures, because that's a big thing for you. But I agree, mainly the issue with this card is just the competition is really, really strong for this effect. But I also do think that if you're playing a small cube and you have a lot of mana dorks in your green section, that I think that playing this on turn 2 is going to feel really strong. A 4/3 on turn 2 is very strong. So that to me would be the main reason, another reason why I would consider running this over one of the other effects. But yeah, I think the competition is just really, really stiff for this.
Yeah, we're currently on the four of these effects in our cube, and I could see this replacing a card like Galactic Wayfarer, potentially to try out. But I mean, it doesn't make a game object, which is relevant in some spots. That's why we added Galactic Wayfarer. And really, you're not getting a huge bonus in the stat line. I guess if you think Galactic Wayfarer is like 5 mana 3/3 for this effect, except you just never have to wear the web sling. So I do agree. I think you have to be wanting to use this at least partially as a Skyfisher in order to be happy about it.
Yeah, you got to get something out of web sling in here, I think, though. I mean, I do agree. A 4/3 stat line on turn 2 is going to deal 4 to 8 damage at least before people are really set up. What I meant was, like, it doesn't really ramp you if you're using your mana dork to bounce it back.
I agree.
Damn it. Okay, despite this being kind of just dude, like, the art is just dude. Damage control crew.
Yeah.
I think for me, I would have to scan ahead. I think this is the best peasant card in the set.
Yeah.
I don't
Slam dunk.
think
Slam
it's
dunk.
super close. What was the other? Oh, the -2/2 could give it some competition for sure. But this is like an obvious good card. It's 3 and a green, 3/3 uncommon human citizen. When it enters, choose one. Either return target card with mana value 4 or greater from your graveyard to your hand, or exile target artifact or enchantment. Just, big reclamation sage / big gravedigger style card.
Yeah, so you guys remember back at the beginning of the episode when I mentioned the Spider-Man that I wanted to bring up something about creature sizing when we got to green?
Does it bother you that
now.
this is 3/3 and Spider-Man is also 3/3?
How does this, dude? How buff is this construction worker? He goes toe to toe with Spider-Man.
Have you never blocked grizzly bears with Traveling Philosopher? Like,
this guy beats a grizzly bear in a fight.
Dude, look at him.
I just love the incidental flavor.
Never mind, he's American. He just pulls out a gun. That's right. Okay, we're good. Never mind. We're good.
I love the incidental flavor win of having a damage control crew come in to like save the set for us, and it's like not really Spider-Man related at all. It's just like, damn, we're here. Don't worry, guys, we're here.
Dude, if you just took the little like Green Goblin pumpkin bomb and put an apple in his hand instead, this would be.
There you go. Yeah.
But Hill Giant that exiles, especially artifacts and enchantments, is obviously really good. But the thing to focus on here is how much of a detriment is it that this can only get back mana value 4 or greater cards from your graveyard? Obviously, it's like worse than Eternal Witness in that regard, but like you'll still get something back.
It's not nothing, but I really don't care.
What I told somebody is that if they had just removed the repair line and this was just 3 and a green for 3/3 ETB, exile, and artifact or enchantment, it would still be like a B for me. I think that's the thing I want to be doing 100% of the time when I cast this card. And then, yeah, if I happen to be in the scenario where I can't get value out of that, yeah, it'll be nice to be able to get something back, like a land cycler or something. But I want to be exiling every time with this. And the fact that it's exile is huge, because so often the non-creature permanents, when you want to kill your opponent's non-creature permanent, so often they're using it in some sort of a looping recursive deck. This goes just back to what we were talking about in the Skyfisher episode about trying to get more exile naturally into your cube. And this just happens to be on a body that is totally reasonable for the effect. So yeah, I think this card is
this is
excellent.
this is also an out to all of your bridge glyph nonsense.
Yes.
Yeah, this card's
Fantastic
great. I agree, though. I think that this is
great,
very much a Rex. This is a Rex Sage that occasionally gets to draw us a card, which is super sweet. Also, it's card, so like you know, you can even set up some more loop scenarios with this card. So, for example, you can't do it with Lively Dirge. Never mind. Disregard that. I was thinking Lively Dirge is a 4-mana card, but it's not actually a 4-mana card.
Yeah, and I think any like real peasant cube designers knows the card's amazing, so we can probably move on from there. Like it's so obviously like the modality is just great here.
Yeah, like it is wild to me that they made the best card in the entire set random New York construction worker though. Just dude.
Yeah, this is actually going to be a good thumbnail for some YouTube video because I can just slap the Jank Diver game in circle there where the little pumpkin
and
is.
And everybody will know what the set's about.
Yeah. Is this last green? Yeah, last green card. This is Scout the City. 1 in a green, sorcery, common, choose one. You can look around, which is mill 3 cards. You may put a permanent card from among them into your hand. You gain 3 life, or you can bring down, destroy target creature with flying. So I don't really put a lot of stock in plummet effects, but if you're just going to tack them onto something, I'll take them. The question really is here, how does mill 3 pick up a permanent from among them, gain 3, compared to the kind of like self-mill cards we already have? And the answer is it's worse than most of them. How much does a random modal plummet change your evaluation of that?
So this isn't a game object itself. So like, because it's definitely worse than Malevolent Rumble, right?
It's worse than Rumble. I'm pretty sure it's worse than Dredger's Insight unless you are killing a flyer, meaningful flyer some amount of the time.
Maybe. Like, this card can pick up enchantments. So, like, you can pick up... Like, you can't do that with Dredger's Insight. You can...
Yeah, from 3 cards, though. 3 cards pretty narrow. I mean, it can hit an enchantment. Sure.
Yeah, I think Dredger's is probably better, but this is something that I could see competing with it. I think Dredger's ends up being better just because you're going to find something to do with the enchantment at some point, and that makes it a 2-for-1.
Cash grab here as another comparison point.
Yeah, the gain 3 life, though, is meaningful upside on cash grab, even though cash grab does get to look 1 deeper, and cash grab is an instant, which is nice. I do think you definitely, quote-unquote, need to care about the destroy target.
Oh, this is a sorcery. My bad. I was thinking this was an instant the whole time. Never mind, I'm out.
But the fact that, you need to care about the plummet side of this, and the problem is like, we've talked about this before, even if there's value to that, it's like it's going to be less exciting now as a synergy piece than it would have been, cash grab or whatever else. So my view on this is similar in line to other non-best in class versions of this effect, and I don't think it's crazy to run this instead of cash grab. I currently do run cash grab because it digs 4 and is an instant. I could imagine maybe running this instead. I think they're pretty comparable.
I think the deal break or the make or break it for me would be like, am I really interested in having that extra life gain? Like, are my green, like aggro decks just running over green decks? Then I might really be interested in the 3 life or whatever. I think this is strictly better than Bond of Flourishing from War of the Spark. I think it's worded differently. That one like picked the card and then milled the other cards. I don't know. Maybe against aggressive decks, if you want to hedge against those, especially if they're flyer heavy or something, you could consider this over one of the other options. But if you're purely in for like trying to fuel your graveyard, I think a lot of the other options take precedent over this, even with the like plummet tacked on for free. So it's fine. It's fine. It's never going to be better than Malevolent Rumble, and maybe you have reasons to play it over some of the other ones. So Spider-Man India, 3 green white for a 4/4 uncommon legendary spider-human hero. This one has web slinging for 1 green white, which is going to be a huge part of the card, and it has I should probably not even try to pronounce that. I don't even know what this means. Whenever you cast a creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains flying until end of turn. So either a 5 mana 4/4 with that effect, or what you're hoping to get is a 3 mana 4/4 with that effect. And you mentioned this in the mainline cube, Teld, but web slinging here is actually a pretty big advantage, like it was with Silk, the green white rare, because you're picking up a creature which gives you some sort of fodder to actually trigger the triggered ability here when you recast it. So this actually does work very nicely with Mana Dork. So you get this down on turn 2, and then you follow up any other turn. This can target itself, so it could start smashing as a 5/5 flyer, and it can target anything. So this one suffers a little bit from the like objectification of cards as non-creatures, non-spells, whatever. Things like Living Weapon taking the place of like actual creatures, but this is definitely pushed if you can web sling it, and passable maybe if you can't.
I'm torn on this card because I think this is a really bad 5-mana card and a kind of crazy 3-mana card. You know, we don't run the Llanowar Elves style dorks anymore in our Peasant Cube. Like, we have Gene Pollinator and Molt Tender, but those are ones that have some specific synergies floating around. So you're not going to be doing this on turn 2 in our cube very often, or ever. So if you're not doing that, it's a little slower. I mean, you still do it off a 2-mana dork, which is nice. And it is a really high ceiling, and we're going to play it. So my grade isn't necessarily that it's bad, but it does suffer from the fact that, 1, we're not on the cheap dorks. 2, it's very, very glaring that you need to web sling this. Like, you really don't want to play this 5-mana card. And 3, it's in a color pair that people generally are pretty down on. That's also kind of a tokens deck. And so this card will be good. It will do things. It'll be powerful when it's in play. My concern is, how often is it going to get played because of its color identity? How often is it going to be played cheap enough to be relevant? And if it's played cheaply often enough, is that going to be super miserable to play against? Because, like you said, you could be swinging as a 5/5 flyer on, like, relatively soon into the game, turn 3 or 4.
Yeah, I originally had this as like a B- because I was really excited about that line of text, and I think I'm gonna come down to more like a C for this. Which just means to me, like, I definitely think there will be white-green decks that don't run this. I think that's, like, almost certainly the case. Not just decks that are more based around Builder's Talent type, Pixie-style, non-creature object abuse, but also just even creature decks. Like, if you don't think you can get this out web-slung often enough early in the game, then this is terrible. And the fact that all those things are the case, and also the fact that, let's imagine you get the best case scenario, which I do think is turn 1 elf into this on turn 2, and then they just kill this, and then not only did you not get any mana advantage, you didn't get any card advantage, and now your elf is back in your hand. Like, that's a really terrible scenario, and this is such a removal magnet. Like, they have to kill this. Now, the nice thing is it has 4 toughness. That matters a lot. It does dodge, a lot of the cheap red interaction that could face it. So, and dodges nowhere to run. Like, there's some upside there, but I guess my point is just saying, even in the best case scenario, you still can get blown out by running this out there, and that makes me a little bit concerned. So I do want to try this because I can imagine this feeling incredibly busted some percentage of the time. I do think it's going to play way better in smaller environments with a lot of green mana dorks. That's going to be the case, I think, with multiple of these web slinging cards, but I see the blowout potential here, and that concerns me. So of getting blown out yourself. So really cool card, though. Really cool card.
One other thing, too, is if you're not manually tapping these with mounts, vehicles, or Gene Pollinator, this card specifically kind of suffers because you're not going to be able to take advantage of pushing the damage the turn you play it, right? Or, like, the turn it comes into play, like, you're going to have to find a way to get it into play and then untap with it to be able to start flinging your dudes with flying and +1 counters.
Yeah, I was going to say, there is the unwritten mode of, like, just waiting till a later turn anyway, and then web slinging and casting something immediately in the same turn. Even if you could do it on, like, turn 2 or 3, just wait until later to guarantee that you have a follow-up that same exact turn, just to at least get your +1/+1 counter. But then you're probably post-combat at that point because you have a tapped creature unless you're doing something specific.
Yeah, so I kind of want to put the card, I know this is weird, but I kind of want to put the card Mobile Homestead into play with this, just because, like, giving the mobile, like, it's a way to trigger web slinging for it. It, like, is a card that you kind of want to get flying so you can keep pushing, attacking and ramping. I don't want to necessarily play that card, but I'm just saying I that particular, like, synergy is kind of nice.
Yeah, I think if we are going to play, like, anywhere in the ballpark of, like, 2 to 4 web slinging cards, we should consider Springleaf Drum, which is awkward because it's not a creature that becomes tapped, but it does let you tap whatever else, which is what you want to be doing with web slinging, is picking up whatever creature you want to pick up, because this is really good with your Thraben Inspectors if you're not necessarily ramping it out on 2 with your Llanowar Elves or something like that. This has got to be great in Ornithopter's Cube, right? You got your Ornithopters to web sling, and then you just cast a bunch of Ornithopters and you pump up whatever.
Oh yeah, that seems great. Yeah.
So yeah, new Spider-Man India, the new addition to Ornithopter's Cube.
It might seem silly, but it is, I think, relevant to know that this is not gated in any way. There's no, like, once per turn line here, which I think is you'd often see. So if this survives, and then you get to play, like, 2 creatures to give 2 of your things flying.
I was going to say, if you're still on Core Skyfisher, yeah.
White Mane Lion as a combat trick. We don't have White Mane Lion, never mind. Somebody mentioned that in the comments on your guys' Skyfisher video. Does move us to Spider-Man. I assume this is Spider. I'm supposed to pronounce that Spider. 3 white, blue for a 4/4 legendary artifact creature, Spider Hero. Not a human. Now I definitely want to look up Penny. Vigilance. When Spider enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card.
Yeah, Penny's not the character. She's piloting it, but Spider's the character. So it's an artifact Spider Hero, right?
Wait, is Penny not the little child?
I think Penny's the little girl, but the card itself, because it's an artifact,
it's a team up. It's a team up, right?
Suit. It's the suit.
It's both of them together. It's a team up, and she is not human. She's like, her reality is unknown, and she's like a piglet.
Her reality is unknown.
Her reality.
Daneelius coming with these crazy. The cool thing, Daneelius, is you could be completely making this up, and I still 100%.
Do you think I'm a man?
Yeah.
Do you think I'm a man?
Do you think I'm a man?
You think I'm a girl?
Yeah. Apparently, her reality is unknown, so they don't know where she's from, and she's like a pig person.
Whatever.
Anyways, about the card itself.
Sure. Spider piloted by Penny. So, okay, what are we looking at here? A 5-mana 4/4 that can either become a 5/5 Vigilance itself or modify another creature. And then, again, not a gated ability. Anytime a modified creature you control hits your opponent, you draw a card. And on its own, like, if you weren't doing anything that could modify, I think this would be pretty bad, actively pretty bad. Like, obviously, it can threaten to hit your opponent if you put the counter on it and connect and draw the card, but it doesn't have haste. It's a vanilla 5/5 basically for 5 mana if you do that. Where I do think this is really cool is if you surround it with the living weapon stuff. So your barbed spikes, your dragoons, lances, your mandibular kites, so basically all the evasive ones. Because what you do is you play this, you can even throw a counter on one of those, and then you can draw a card for every single one of those that can connect with your opponent. Usually you only have like one of those style of cards in play, but I think if you play this card for 5 mana. If you play this card for 5 mana, you get to put a counter on another evasive creature and you get to hit with it and draw a card. I think that's a pretty good baseline. Obviously, that requires you having more stuff in play, and the baseline of like having to put the counter on this itself is pretty bad, but we do support blue-white artifacts. We do have a lot of things that are automatically modified, and I think you might have more support for that sort of strategy than you think already. You could go out of your way to support it more. I think this is a rock-solid card that still doesn't scream to me like must play blue-white card. I just think if you can support it with those evasive, like already modified type cards, it's actually quite good.
Yeah, I mean, ungated and multi-turn draw engine, like we talked about, it's a little expensive, but vigilance also means it's a decent kind of mid-rangey card. It can attack in and still be a blocker if it survives. Although I assume you're not attacking into a lot of boards with this card. But yeah, I mean, especially if you put this, also like kind of cool because you can put it on, the Mischievous Mystic, and then it triggers itself to draw to start doing that sort of thing. I think there's enough going on here that if you've got a lot of like counters and living weapons floating around, that you could conceivably like play this and draw 2 cards in the turn you play it, right? If you've got like a Mandibular Kite and then you push through another card. Notably, Nurturing Pixie does put a +1 counter on itself, so it's a card that would take advantage of that. It's modified. Yeah, I think there's enough going on here with the possibility of like play this, draw 2 cards in the first turn that you play it, that I'm kind of interested. I don't think it's must play. I think it's a little clunky when things aren't going all the way right, though. I will say you kind of want to be in the driver's seat when you play this, so maybe it's more of a
in the spider robot seat.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I don't know. Like I can get behind this. I'm not super into it, but I also think it's got just enough going on that my interest is perked.
Yeah, what you just said there I think is important, where it's like it's a 5 mana card where I think you kind of do already need to be in the driver's seat when you play it. Not exactly, because it does add 1 counter, but it's not really helping you push damage that much. So I don't know. It's a 5 mana card is really my issue with this. If this was 4 mana and slightly smaller, I'd be more into it. And also, I do think it's kind of weird that it's blue-white. It's not that white can't, synergize with these lines of text around modified creatures, but it's probably the worst. Or maybe that and black are the 2 worst at doing modified creature stuff. So, I can imagine a world where we get some more playable blue job select or for Mirrodin or living weapon style equipment, and this becomes more exciting to me. But as it stands, I see this more as like a mono white card almost. And if this had been white red, I think I'd have been more interested in it. I think is why blue card it doesn't quite make sense to me, and so I'm earmarking it. I think it's the kind of card I could see coming in at some point in the future, but I don't think it quite gets there for me right now.
I think part of the joke here, and I'll give them a lot of credit on this set. I really like the mechanics and some of the bleed over of the mechanics. I think part of the joke here is you have Connive from blue here to help with the modified stuff for blue-white specifically.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm assuming that was like intentional behind blue-white being modified, whereas it was red-green last time we saw it. So, okay, we're moving away from Spider-Man's here into Rhino. Rhino's next. Rhino, we all have this plugged as a D, so this can be a quick one, but I thought it was cool. It's 7 mana. Rhino, Barrel, and Brute is 3 red, green for a 6/7 human villain. It's a legendary creature, uncommon. Vigilance, Trample, Haste, and whenever it attacks, if you've cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater this turn, draw a card. And again, joke there being that this has haste, so presumably you draw a card the turn this was cast and hits your opponent because you cast this. So, and then if your 7 mana play somehow is still alive with no protection or whatever the following turn, and you can follow up with another expensive thing, like you might be able to draw additional cards. So 7 mana just kills it. 7 mana just kills us.
The problem I have with this card is that it reads that it draws you a card, but it actually doesn't draw you a card because you died 2 turns ago because you have 7 mana.
Sure, yeah. It also doesn't have to connect. It's just attack, so it's a little better there. But I don't know. They throw their mired Triton in front of it. You cantripped, you dealt some damage, but that was your whole turn, and they got to probably like triple spell by that point.
If you're playing an environment where you're happy with the 7 mana green cards that you're playing, then I think this one could also be fun.
Sure. That's exactly it. I think this reads like a fun card. I don't think it's actually a very good card. We all D'd it or D-minused it.
Yeah, when I compare this to like Sifter Worm or Glacier Godmaw, it's just hard for me to get behind this. Also, red, green. Like, I get dorks can produce mana of multiple colors, so it's not as bad as it seems. But that's also a bit of a stretch. Like, this is not the Peasant Kogel Yudaro that we're looking for.
No, despite that mana. Also, Rhino. Is Rhino just a human? Like, I don't know Spider-Man lore. Why is Rhino not like a beast or something like that?
He's wearing like a Rhino suit, obviously.
But is he? Is Rhino just like a dude in a Rhino suit? Because I know in that one Andrew Garfield movie, it was like a robot suit or something, but whatever. I don't know I don't know Rhino, apparently. So, other red-green card. Kraven.
He's a Russian thug, according to Wikipedia. So
okay, so he just wears a Rhino suit. He's just the Juggernaut, but in the Spider-Man universe. Okay. Kraven Proud Predator, 1 red-green for a star 4 legendary human warrior villain at uncommon with vigilance, and Kraven's power is equal to the greatest mana value among permanents you control. So this counts itself. So baseline 3/4 vigilance for 3 in 2 colors. If you play bigger things, it gets bigger. Extremely boring, but has stats, I guess is kind of what you could say about this.
This is an early front runner for the Sleep Magic Award in that it taps me and I'm not going to untap. And
it slept you. Yeah, sure.
It's big.
It's so boring. It's so boring.
It's big and boring. Big and boring.
Yeah.
Yep,
I mean, me and Daneelius gave it C range. Teld gave it the coveted grade.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you guys. I just don't give it. I don't care.
Oh man, there's actual text underneath this next card. Okay, Daneelius, you put this on the list, right?
This is me. I'll talk about it.
Sure. Okay.
This is Gallant Citizen. It's hybrid green white, 2 mana for a 1/1 human citizen. When this creature enters, draw a card. I just want to talk about this very briefly because this is a reprint essentially of Pawn Prophet. Pawn Prophet was hybrid blue green. This is hybrid green white. I originally was really excited for Pawn Prophet because I like hybrid cards a whole lot, and I specifically have sections in my cube devoted to hybrid cards because I think those are really fun to draft with. And what I realized after 3 drafts is that Pawn Prophet is not a hybrid card. Pawn Prophet is a blue-green card because nobody's putting green-green, draw a card, or blue-blue, draw a card in their blue or green, but not blue-green deck. And unfortunately, I think that's also the case with Gallant Citizen. You're not really playing this in your green or white deck that isn't the other color. You have to play this as a green-white card. I think it's different for 4 mana spells that have double hybrid requirements because you still can theoretically play those in the red-black planeswalker that's hybrid often gets played in just red decks or just black decks. But I don't the effect on this card isn't enough to where you're happy on playing this later on in the game. You want to be playing this early, and it's hard to play this early unless you're both green and white. And so I don't think it's worth it for that reason. I just wanted to call out, I really like hybrid cards. I like that they added a lot of hybrid cards in this set. I just don't think this really counts. As a hybrid card, this is really a green-white card, so I don't think it's good enough.
I don't know, man.
Fair.
I think this is a really innovative and cool design.
I thought about it there, but it was like slightly different. That used to, man, what was it? Bloomburrow, right? Like you would just be sitting there like Friday night or whatever, not doing anything, playing a draft, and your opponent's green-white rabbit deck would go forest pawn profit, and I would just get so, like, my blood would boil. I'm like, you're not supposed to have pawn profit in this deck.
All right, so let's talk about Spider Manifestation.
It's a great joke.
But not a human, joke. So clear. Although Avatar. Do you want to actually? This is one of the coolest arts in the set. I like.
This is good. This
is
like
Duskborn art. Yeah, it's a Duskborn card.
Yeah, this is awesome actually, and the card's good.
Yeah, so it's 1 red-green hybrid. So red or green. This is actually hybrid for a 2/2 with reach, and you can tap it to add red or green. And whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, you get to untap this creature. So yeah, that's mana value 4 or greater. So all the discounted caveats from earlier apply to this card. Yeah, this is cool. I don't know how good it is, but it is a red mana dork that's just an open-ended red mana dork.
I mean, it plays into its own theme well too, right? Because you can. I mean, my thing is, I don't know how useful it is to be able to untap your 2/2 or whatever, but to Daneelius' point about the wrestler that made a treasure, like, you could cast your 4-drop on turn 3 with this, untap this, and have green mana up for your protection spell or something like that. So, like, as long as you're casting big things using this, you always at least have a mana up after casting it. If not, like, just attack with this or have this as a blocker for your small things. I'm not sure how it compares to like the raccoon from Bloomburrow or a Narcomancer, because those are like the most direct comparisons, but it's hybrid. I mean, you can put it in a green deck. And
the key thing is that I think it's wrong to compare this card to those cards. So the way I think people sometimes struggle with hybrid mana in general, and I know that because I'm in a lot of I'm in Cube Discords where people will bring up hybrid cards that they put in the gold sections of their cube, and it's kind of the opposite of a gold card. So a gold card can go in, if you think about there being 10 2-color pairs, a gold card can go in 1 of those 10 2-color pairs. A monocolor card can go in 4 of those 2-color pairs. A hybrid card can go in 7 of those 2-color pairs. And so a hybrid card is a lot more like a colorless card than it is a gold card. And if you view this as a colorless card, compare this to the other options that we have at colorless, it's not really even close in my mind. So the key question to me is like, it's more about how do you organize your own cube? Where, what slot do you put this into? Do you just put this in the colorless section? I think that would be even more appropriate than putting this into a monocolored section or a gold section. And as a colorless card, I think this card easily gets there. So the question is more about like, cube construction. How do you consider, what slots does this go into? But if you think of this as colorless, I think it's really, really good.
Yeah, I actually think the area that I'm most excited to play this card, funny enough, is in Boros, because you can ramp into your heroic reinforcements, and then you use this to cast your heroic reinforcements. Maybe it gives you enough mana to cast another spell this turn, or you get to cast that and then like untap this when you cast your heroic reinforcements. Now you've got an extra 3/3 involved. So you're not necessarily wanting to like cast your heroic reinforcements early, but this can give you the mana to cast another spell that turn to make your heroic reinforcements play even more explosive. So I think I agree with you that this card's value comes from being able to fit into a bunch of different spaces. Primarily, again, I think I'm thinking of this as a red card first, because I think green just has so many good mana dorks. I'm not super interested in like what's probably, the 5th best mana dork or 6th best mana dork or whatever. But for red, this is pretty novel territory. In addition, we talked about Witchtalker Frenzy earlier, and I think one cool thing about this is, man, can you imagine the lines where your opponent's gonna like attack you with, a 1/1 flyer or something and some other cards, and like you've got this just sitting there, and or it's like tapped and you have 1 red available. You like cast your Witchtalker Frenzy, kill their biggest creature, untap this, block their 1/1. Yeah, just totally ambush them, blow them out. Yeah, I think this card's got some teeth to it, mostly because I do think that this card's going to go into a bunch of different spaces as a flexible card. It helps your red deck get the mana to start casting cards reliably, like Call of the Mountain Chocobo if you're playing a slightly slower red deck. Yeah, I think this card's got some teeth to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, very very cool all around. Like, I think, they said we're going to start putting mana dorks in red. That's going to be a regular thing. It's part of their color pie now, more regularly. We're going to make sure they don't get better than green mana dorks, and the way they justify that apparently is to do hybrid red-green mana dorks that are decent. So
technically, they didn't lie.
Decent, and I am becoming more and more like I really do actually want to carve out space for a hybrid section, because that whole classification gets really muddy when you're like, this card's 80% white, 20% black or whatever. Like, I always hate that sort of like kind of division when it comes to like placement of a card in hybrid. Having a hybrid section means you don't have to like use a red green slot on this, or fake that it's a mono green card X% of the time or whatever. But topic idea for another time. Speaking of which, another hybrid card here, which I believe, Daneelius, you're pretty high on this one. We all have it C range. I'm slightly lower, but hybrid flexibilities add into the power of this card for sure.
Same idea. So this is Web Warriors 4 and a hybrid green-white. It's a 5 mana for a 4/3 creature spider hero. It says when this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. So that line of text is Ridge Scale Tusker. It's smaller than Ridge Scale Tusker. Tusker is a 5/5, I want to say, but this is a 4/3, so that's certainly relevant. But again, this is closer to a colorless card than it is a dual color card. You can play this in 7 of the 10 color pairs, and like white-red, for instance, gets access to this effect now in their go-wide decks, and that to me is really meaningful. So yeah, I mean, because it's a hybrid card, I think this is eminently keepable, pretty slam dunk. If you have, for whatever reason, a struggle putting hybrid cards in your environment, or you're like, oh, this has to be green-white, it's like, all right, well, maybe it's going to struggle then to make it in over other green-white cards, but it's not. It's more like a colorless card, and I think it's very strong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And again, the advantage here is that this card plays well in white spaces. Like the problem with Ridge Scale Tusker, and I joked when we first saw this card that, man, it's been like a decade they refused to power creep Ridge Scale Tusker. But the more I've thought about it, I think this card might actually be better. Not literally, like if you can just cast both of them, Ridge Scale Tusker is obviously better. But because you don't have to work, you can put this in your Boros deck. You can put this in your very white heavy deck that couldn't reliably cast Ridge Scale Tusker even. That maybe it's only splashing for 1 or 2 single pipped green cards. It's just supremely flexible. And I think that gives it a level of playability that Ridge Scale Tusker kind of lacks. Because one of the problems with Ridge Scale Tusker is a lot of times you want it in green white, kind of. But like the decks that Ridge Scale Tusker is great on paper, but when you start playing out your games, it just doesn't line up well with the other cards you're playing in green necessarily. So I like that this card again has that white space of token making to take advantage of, where it can come in and do that thing. So I actually like this quite a bit, and it might actually end up being contextually better than Ridge Scale Tusker, even though it's definitely not in like every card is equally castable vacuum.
It's almost certainly worse than Ridge Scale Tusker in green white, assuming the double Ridge Scale Tusker is double green, so that matters, but it's a 5-drop, so it doesn't matter too often. It's worse in green white. It's obviously worse in green decks that aren't white, but honestly, white decks usually want this sort of card more than green decks do, or at least in our environment. You could be doing +1/+1 counters in like green black or something like that. In which case, you still have access to this over Ridge Scale Tusker, and then your white decks get access to it too. So,
or density if you want both of them.
And also, I don't think this comes up super often, but this is way more splashable than Ridge Scale Tusker. There's a 2/1 deck from our draft yesterday that was blue-red, and it went super wide. It just had so much token creation, but they're all small bodies, and if it's easy enough to splash for this, I could imagine that deck being interested in splashing this effect because it just always seemed to have 5 or more creatures in play, and they were just kind of small crappers. So yeah, I think way more splashable, way more flexible. Really, really like the card. Really glad it's here.
I have been looking for a replacement for Ridge Scale Tusker for a while now, and I think having this in your Selesnya/hybrid section or whatever kind of means you don't have to play Tusker. I don't think Tusker has held up very well over the last few years, mostly because we don't play a +1/+1 counter green deck. We do have kind of a tokeny style thing going on in Selesnya, but a lot of that comes off the back of white, not necessarily green. So I wonder if we free up Tusker for something different and just play this as a hybrid card instead. I don't necessarily think the green white decks even necessarily want 2 of these.
Maybe. I do think in some of the green ramp decks, being able to upgrade like your 2-mana dorks is relevant. Like with the Tusker, it doesn't come up all the time. I agree with you. It's not as good as it used to be, but card was the like kind of OG mythic uncommon for a reason.
It was 10 years ago at this point though. So Scarlet Spider Kane is next. This is red-black for a 2/1 with menace. When it enters, you may discard a card. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on him. And burying the lead a little bit, it has Mayhem for red-black hybrid mana, so a single mana. Nothing impressive about this card if you're just casting it straight up, or you really either I think need to be doing the Mayhem Madness discard thing, or B, you need to have reliable ways to cast this for 1 mana, in which case you could be getting a 3/2 menace for a single mana, which is pretty good. And hopefully if you are doing like the Mayhem Madness thing, you can chain, this into another like discard and get value off of that or something like that. So I'm seeing contextual reasons to want this. You would never just play this straight up, I think, as a red-black card over something synergistic your red-black decks are doing.
To quote a friend of ours, that seems ambitious. But also, like, is red-black the most stacked gold section in all of Peasant Cube?
Maybe. I don't know. Somebody in the Roto draft just took Stormclaw Rager for some reason with like 0 artifacts in their deck, and it's fine because I got Blood Tithe Harvester, Interceptor Mechan, I got Junkyard Genius, I'm going to get Rakdos Signet on the way. Like, it's like, okay, you took a very valuable card, but I'll just play all these other ones.
There is no universe that I could imagine being convinced, and our cube doesn't really support this, so it's not a big deal, but there's just no universe I could see replacing any of the ones we're on, and there's probably 3 to 5 Rakdos cards I could name pretty quickly that I would rather play than this.
How much are you thinking of this as a mono red card though?
Right. Well, no. So to be clear, I don't think this is a black red card. It's like I think if you're ever casting this for its mana cost, you're really unhappy. It's a hybrid card. It's a black red hybrid card, and the problem to me with the card is that it's not equally playable in every color pair because you do need to be having discard available to you, which really means this is a Grixis card. But I do think that's the way I see this. I don't see this as a black red card. I would, in my mind at least, I'm looking to play this in any Grixis deck that is doing a discard thing. The bigger issue is like, is that enough? Is that enough of a niche to be able to play this card? Probably not. Where I like it is in like a Marauding Mako deck is kind of what I'm thinking. Where this is a really nice cheap threat that you play down on turn 2 with your blood or whatever. Or with your Reckless Detective, or with your the Gremlin that discards and draws whenever you play a creature with power 2 or less. It's like a cheap creature aggro deck that's doing discard stuff, or blue-red in a similar space with Sky Ray. I think there's something here, but it's awkward because it is a hybrid card, but not really. It's really a Grixis card, and then how do you? That's one where I don't know exactly how I classify it. I don't think you can classify this as you play this in 7 of the 10 decks because I doubt black-white or black-green is going to care about this at all. So there's a little bit of weirdness going on there. But yeah, I agree with you. Definitely not good enough as a gold card, as a kind of hybrid card, maybe, but probably more interesting if you're looking to maximize mayhem and discard in general in your environment.
Sure. Yeah, and then if you are doing that, if you are going out of your way, like this can do some really disgusting things where you mayhem this in for 1 mana, you discard Fiery Temper, like any discard, any other Mayhem Madness spell to follow up this because you only paid 1 mana on this. It's just like you get to do this really sick chain. So this feels like the middle ground between like a full-on Madness Mayhem thing. Like you said, Rakdos card by mana cost, you're not playing it in your Rakdos section, especially over the cards that are available. Strange question. Either of you care at all or have ever cared about the Saul franchise? Like,
no.
Okay. I assume Teld no. It doesn't seem to stop.
No,
okay,
really.
I've had a small obsession with them for a very long time. Less so these days.
I like the first one, and that's it.
There's a scene in one of the movies, it's like the 6th or 7th one, where the main character, who is played by a 75-year-old, 76-year-old man, is supposed to be in a flashback. And the only thing they did to make him look younger was they put a cap on his head and they made him turn it backwards. And he's supposed to be like 25 years younger, 30 years younger. But it's just Tobin Bell as a 75-year-old dude with a hat on backwards. And when I saw Sun Spider Nimble Weber, I was like, hey, this is like that scene from Saw. That one Saw movie that only I have seen. But anyway, cap wearing.
What is Sun Spider? All right, give us the Wikipedia entry on it.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this one. I can make no guesses based on the art. While you're looking that up, the card is 3 and blue-white hybrid, so another hybrid card. It's a 3/2 legendary spider-human hero at uncommon. During your turn, it has flying, and when Sun Spider enters, search your library for an aura or equipment card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. So immediate comparison to Delivery Moogle, but you got the hybrid thing going on here. Flying during your turn, I don't know, doesn't feel like that much of a downgrade from just flying in general on a aggressively statted creature. It does matter. Obviously, it's worse than just having flying. And then how different is search for an aura or equipment versus the Moogle's search for an artifact with mana value 2 from your graveyard or your library. And maybe I shouldn't be making the comparison between the two because of the hybrid nature of this card, but like it's impossible to look at this card and not immediately think of Delivery Moogle. So
yeah, the only thing that's really pulling me to this card is, as I saw the hybrid thing, is that this card specifically, and we would have to add another density like Sleep Magic or something, but this card can specifically tutor Unable to Scream, and while it's not as good here in Peasant as it is in the mainline cube, it is still really good. So I think that's kind of the meaningful upside on this card, is you can play it in your blue deck to go tutor up like arguably the best removal spell in blue ever printed. And so, I don't think that's enough to want it, but it's close, and it's kind of close to Moogle in some senses. But it can't get your Clayfire bricks, which is a pretty big deal. But it can't get sheltered by
get like control magic though, or sheltered by ghosts. Like it. I mean, it comes down to the auras and equipment you're playing. Obviously, equipment's a little weird because like presumably you're playing mostly cheap equipment already, in which case the Moogle could go get them. But obviously, this can tag more expensive equipment. Auras in general, which the Moogle can't do at all. You can play this in blue decks that don't have white in them, period. So they're different enough despite like the obvious like lineup between the stat lines and the mana cost and stuff.
Yeah, I think they're very different. And to getting the most important stuff out of the way, this is Charlotte Weber. That's the real name. That's the quote unquote real name.
Charlotte Weber.
Charlotte Weber. Here's her quote. So she's from Earth 20023 is the, I don't know where she's from, the episode or something she's from. Here's the quote. Miles, I'm like a huge fan of your work. Do you think spider people too often use comedy as a crutch? Get it? Crutch? And I just want to say I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand what that means.
That's funny right there.
I'm assuming one of them was on a crutch when this was stated.
Sure. Yep, totally. So, okay, real quick. Again, not a real hybrid card. Important to note because maybe in your section it is. I don't know. But for me, I have one target for this in black and I have one target for this in green. Black Mage's Rod and Utopia's Brawl. And some people play, actually a card that I'm planning on testing, the new Edge of Eternity's Aura for 1 green.
Melt Strider's Resolve or something like that.
And that is actually a very good trick. So, is this as modal? Do you have any options in your environment for this compared to Delivery Moogle? In mine, it's not very close. I've got way more targets in my environment for Delivery Moogle, so I don't know that that's a great comparison. On the other hand, this is kind of hybrid a little bit, so you can play this in a lot of places. You can pick up your Samurai's Katana with this, which is kind of cool. You can pick up Control Magic if you're playing that, or Zoetic Glyph. Yes, we already mentioned Shelter by Ghosts. I think the advantage that this card has over Delivery Moogle is that some of the hits are higher hits, I guess you could say, and you still have that ability, and maybe you even have more ability with this card than you did with Moogle. The Moogle can do similar things, but you're right. You can pick up your Sleep Magic, you're Unable to Scream. If you're playing that Melf Strider's whatever fight spell, you can get that. So you can actually treat this almost as a 5-mana, Ravenous CubeCobra style card in blue, which is, I think pretty exciting. So I do think really the question here is all about your environment. How many hits do you have? How realistic is it going to be for your drafter to draft this plus, I think 3 hits minimally is what you're looking for. You can't get stuff out of the yard with this, so you do need a good number of hits for this effect. But I think, with all that taken into account, I think it's reasonable. If you see this as a more colorless than gold, then yeah, I think this gets there on modality.
Yeah, I think this is a card that also it's better in more powerful and small environments. So a few things specifically is like there's a few good hits, like you mentioned, Shelter by Ghost. So if you're in a 360 environment like ours, you're running Shelter by Ghost, you can more reliably pick that up as opposed to a 540. If you're an insane person and you're running some of the really old powerful cards, there's even like flexing into like Animate Dead tutoring with this.
If you're a cube with Animate Dead, you're not playing Sun Spider Nimble Weber.
Sure,
maybe.
Sure, probably not. But I did want to mention it. But yeah, like the smaller your cube is and the more good targets you have relative to the cube density, obviously it gets better. So yeah, there's like 3-ish good hits I can think of in blue off the top of my head. And there's probably, if I was given, had an opportunity, I could think of another couple that are pretty decent. But I do think this card is more white than anything else, and in that space, I think it's probably worse than the Moogle.
Yeah, and notable too, if you only have like 1 to 2 targets in your deck and you draw them before this hits the board, you see that with Micromancer a lot. That's why I love the Google, is being able to pick the Moogle is being able to pick a card out of your graveyard is so significant on that card, because and not that you really run out of targets.
Micromancer.
It is more Micromancer the more I'm thinking about it than it is whatchamacallit. And maybe I should take back that Animate Dead comment, because like maybe you'd be playing Skull Clamp and stuff like that too. So yeah, I mean it's a side grade to some of those other things. It's specific to your environment for sure. Wait a second, how is there a quote from Spiders Man? He's just Spiders, right? Does he speak English? Spiders Man can speak English. Whatever quote you gave from Spiders Man earlier, how did he say that?
Do you think I am a man?
He's spiders. How did he say that? Spiders don't talk. Do the spiders talk? Anyway, what
do you not know the lore of Spiders Man? Do you need me to read it again?
No. Instead, could you read Live in Brian?
Yes.
I know it's Brian.
Yes.
I know it's Brian.
This is a card I actually am excited about. I think this card is cool, and it's doing something different. So, I there's a number of cards in the set that I think are actually quite cool, and it's interesting that they are in this.
Let's hear about the life of Brian.
Living Brain, Mechanical Marvel, is a 4-mana legendary artifact creature robot villain. It's a 3/3, and it says at the beginning of combat on your turn, target non-equipment artifact, very important, you control becomes an artifact creature with base power and toughness 3/3 until end of turn, and untap it. Also very important. So immediately the card type that I got excited about with this is your indestructible 2-color artifact lands in 2 different ways. So the first way is this kind of gets to act as a mana dork when you have one of those in play, because just you can play this on turn 4, you untap that land, and now you can tap that again for mana if you need to. And obviously the fact that it animates those lands into 3/3s is something reasonable as well. But there's I feel like a number of ways that you could potentially abuse that effect. And the card that I was thinking about with this as a comparison to this is Tough Cookie. Obviously, it's not as good as Tough Cookie. I'm not going to try to argue that. Tough Cookie, though, for me is one of the best cards in the cube. It's one of the best green cards in the cube, certainly. And so if this even does kind of an impression of a Tough Cookie on a colorless card, that is relevant to me. Colorless is doing everything for me here. If this was a mono red or a mono green card or whatever, I don't think there's any color I'd be interested in running this effect. But as a colorless card, the competition is not great, and this is doing something unique. I can't imagine not being interested in this card in any sort of a token artifact objects style deck, and it gets that much better if you're running the artifact lands. So I think it's cool.
Yeah, there's a few specific cards that kind of jump to mind with this one that make it more interesting. Like you said, the bridges are one. I'm not particularly high on Ornithopter of Paradise, but it kind of does the same thing there, where it untaps your mana dork or lets you ship in for 3/3 flying damage with your mana dork. Kind of similarly with Ginger Brute. I'm trying to imagine what we're doing here to end up with a Ginger Brute Living Brain deck, but it does let you make your Ginger Brute into a 3/3 mostly unblockable creature to chip in more damage. And then what was the other one? There was another one, and it slipped my mind. But yeah, there's a few things there's a few specific hits here that are pretty good. And I think the bridge synergy and the mana rock synergy of being able to untap things, and also being colorless, like you said, just being able to fit in makes it a relatively low opportunity cost card to try, and there's always food or landers or something like that laying around that you can use with it. Mm-hmm. Oh, Osia Stick Twister, that was the one. Give that card an extra point of power.
Yeah, I mean, you guys covered it. It does all that stuff. I mean, it is still 4-mana 3/3. It could die in response. You could get one hit in. It doesn't seem impressive to me, but it seems worth trying out. Also, a villain for your black removal spell. Very important. You have a note
Untap
here.
your collector's vault.
I mean, anything with an activated ability that's worth reusing or whatever. Anything with untap synergy. I guess artifacts specifically, but you have a note here to not forget about Terminate, which we're pretty sure is going to be downshifted to common or uncommon. That's the red-black instant destroy target creature. I think it says it can't be regenerated. I'm not looking at it, but
yes.
Classic removal spell, pushed enough if you want to play gold removal spell that's just highly efficient. So if you want to play Terminate, you totally can. It's not the type of card we like to use our gold slots on, but I'm not going to argue against anybody who wants to put Terminate in their Rakdos section. It is a pretty strong card. New to Arena is why we're mentioning it there. Will you be playing Terminate, Daneelius?
Probably not, but I could see it. I similar thoughts as you. It's like I generally don't want to use my gold slots on more than like one removal spell. Generally speaking, is what I would do. And yeah, but I think it's excellent card.
Yeah,
totally could play
it's
it
a
if you
good
like.
card. Rhino's Rampage, I think we got 4 or 5 more cards here to talk about. So Rhino's Rampage, I'm not sure about this one. I have this in the B range. I should probably go down to C because like +1/+0 fight is actually not that good of a removal spell, but high upside here. So Rhino's Rampage is a single mana. It's a red-green hybrid, so either mono-red or mono-green or red-green or whatever. It's an uncommon sorcery. Target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. It fights target creature an opponent controls. When excess damage is dealt to a creature an opponent controls this way, destroy up to 1 target non-creature artifact with mana value 3 or less. You can see, obviously, what the upside is here, and so many decks just have an artifact sitting on board. Like, a lot of what we talk about throughout reviews like this in general revolves around artifacts. So, like, assuming people have an artifact's worth destroying, and assuming you're able to kill a creature with your 1-mana fight spell, and assuming you're able to deal excess damage, this is actually, like, a very impressive 2-for-1 for a 1-mana spell, but you'll notice I said assuming 3 times there. So there's just to be clear, +1/+0 fight target creature and opponent controls is not a good card. That is not a good removal spell, though you can line that up fairly often, even if you need to kill a smaller creature than the thing you want to kill, even if you need to like wait a little bit to get a bigger creature on board. A lot of times you can find a spot to make this deal excess damage if you need to, and then if it pops something else, I think it's definitely worth the 1 mana. It's just there are situations where this won't work, and there are some situations where your opponent won't have the artifact on board worth destroying, or it might just be a treasure token or a food, which doesn't feel like it's that crazy to destroy something. So high upside here if you do manage to snag a creature plus like a relevant artifact, and pretty high downside too of this just being kind of like a very unimpressive fight spell to begin with.
Yeah, so the best thing, I mean, like, a couple of things that stick out to me on this card. First of all, is that we played the card Skyshroud Ambush for a while in the cube, and it was very, very good. And that card was more expensive and didn't pump your power. All you had to do is win the fight, but I'm assuming if you would have won the fight with your Skyshroud Ambush, then +1 power means that you would have dealt excess combat damage. Mm-hmm. The removal effect is frequently going to be worse than drawing a card, but being able to destroy a non-creature artifact has some upsides. I mean, we do run the card Portable Hole. Clay Fried Bricks is an in-game stat or like situation, and being able to blow up that Anthem is kind of nice. There's also
all sorts of job select equipment.
Samurai's Katana.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the card I was trying to think of. Dragoon's Lance, Samurai's Katana, stuff like that floating around. So I think this will have a decent number of hits. It also kind of embarrasses the inspectors, where like if you kill them for 1 mana and you blow up the clue, you've gotten pretty clean value. I mean, I don't know why you would. I assume you're killing a better creature than them, but if you blow up the clue without getting to sack it, and you kill something relevant, that's gonna be pretty nice. There are a lot of targets, and there's a decent enough number of annoying non-creature artifacts floating around that I think this card has some legs to it. Being hybrid here kind of helps, but I do think this is another like sneaky, not really hybrid card, despite like ring one, because like the green creatures are the ones that have stats. Some of the white creatures do, so maybe you could find some play into there, but most red creatures tend to be on the smaller size, at least in terms of toughness, and so they might have a little bit of difficulty with not being a bad trade for you. So I think this is more of a green card than anything else, but I could see it seeing some play in other colors, but it's kind of not really a hybrid card in the way that some of these other hybrid cards were.
I can't believe the person who loves Mouse acting like this isn't a card they're going to play in their red decks. It's outrageous, but
I've used up all of my Heartfire Hero equity for the entire episode. Right?
If this was just green, I don't think I would want it. The fact that it's hybrid is the only reason why I think I care about it, and I know I'm a little lower on it than you guys just in the grades. I gave it like a C. You guys, got up to B- level. And mainly for me, the reason I'm lower on it is that non-creature line of text I think is really bad. And, for me, like one of the biggest reasons why artifact and enchantment removal to me is so good in my cube is that so many of the creatures are artifacts or enchantments. And the fact that this, you just can never grab their, 2/2 robot or whatever with this makes it considerably worse in my mind. So I think it's hybrid, though, which is exciting to me. So I could imagine running it. If I do, it's because of that hybrid cost more so than the text box itself.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. I mean, there's high highs on this, and there's like uncastable lows on this for sure. So I'm not even sure like whether you're supposed to play it in the first place or not, unless you're a really artifact heavy cube or something like that, which we technically are at this point. Also wanted to point out, I didn't mention it explicitly, but you don't have to win the fight with this card. You just have to deal excess damage. So your creature could die in the fight, and you could still pop the artifact if you need to, if that situation were to come up. But enough screwing around with that. We got to talk about hot dog cart.
Lock in, boys.
We didn't. Bagel and Schmear didn't make it on. Subway Train didn't make. There was. So I was already like not super impressed or like enthused about spoiler season, but then there was that one day where it was like 10 cards that were just here's things in New York. Oh my god! I also just realized Spider-Man is in this art, like just where's Wattoing right there. I didn't notice him before. Holy crap. Anyway.
There's also the City Pigeon that we didn't talk about over there in the bottom left.
City Pigeon. There's like hot dog. I don't know. There's other stuff. I've got a sign off for you guys, by the way, related to hot dog cart. But 3 mana artifact common. When it enters, create a food token, and you can tap this artifact for 1 mana of any color. So it's a manolith that creates a food token. I have it as F+. If you care about the double object creation, like it's better than that. But what are we thinking here?
I just think it's worth noting now we have 2 different 3 mana artifacts that make 2 artifacts on ETB. We got Dauntless Scrapbot in the last set, which I actually think is quite solid. I've been pretty impressed with that card so far.
It has been good, yeah.
This is way worse than that, but it does make 2 artifacts for 3 mana. That could be something that you're interested in. And it's just new. Again, we haven't gotten those cards before these 2. So it's something, but I'm not running this card.
Yeah, very, very cool. Makes 2 game objects. Okay, move on.
Okay. We've got 2 lands to mention here. Teld, is Daily Bugle building a last minute addition by you?
It was. How could you tell?
Because I had to move it to a different part of the document.
Yeah, so a Daily Bugle building is a land that taps to add a colorless. You can pay 1 and tap to add a mana of any colors. This is the Shimmering Grotto variant we get every set, and its upside is called Smear Campaign. You pay 1 and tap, and target legendary creature gains menace until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Daneelius mentioned earlier in the episode that because of Universes Beyond, we're getting a ton of legendaries these days. Our cube is becoming increasingly dense with them, and this is a reasonably decent effect to have. I don't necessarily think this one quite gets there, but I did want to just mention it because it is the kind of card that could signal like some peasant level legendary synergies coming about, and like it's pretty good with like an AMR or something like that.
So we might get into this more in a second about our overall feelings on the set, but to me this is an example of like a big miss, because why doesn't this say suspect target creature? Like, wouldn't that make so much more flavor sense for this card?
They used that on the actual Jameson or whatever.
Right.
Like,
but because this card was made for limited, they didn't want to include suspect on it because that would have been like a whole other mechanic that they'd have to blah, blah, blah. It's a fine card. I just feel like it's such a flavor miss. I don't really understand why they didn't go that direction.
Because if you suspected it, it would permanently be a menace, and this way you have to keep putting out issues of the paper to keep reminding people that Spider-Man is an menace.
Yeah. You're right. Flavor win. All right.
And then, I mean, we got like... I mean, check this out. Check this bad boy out. Vibrant Cityscape. Colorless, not colorless, common land. You can tap it and sack it. Search your library for a basic land, put it on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Is this just a fetch land at common?
Okay, hear me out.
Fetch lands at commons.
Hear me out. Use social engineering on turn 3. You warp in, use social engineering. Then you play Vibrant Cityscape. You sack it. You make 2/2/2s. But okay, for real, I know this is a joke that we're including this. There is a reasonable chance that I'm going to add this to my queue
as a fourth of Evolving Wilds.
All the fetch lands for you social engineering. So I might actually play this as hilarious as it is. But you don't need to. You can just play a second Evolving Wilds, whatever if you want to.
Escape Tunnel, right, Terramorphic.
And guys, we saved the best for last.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, you want to guess what time it is?
It's
Morbin time.
Morbin time. We don't have to read the card, do we?
No. Morbius is terrible. But it is in the set, and it's that
Morbin time. I was like, they saved that one for like the second to last day or whatever. I was like, where's Morbius? I am
disappointed that the flavor text isn't just it's Morbin time.
It is also funny that the card is like hilariously bad, but just like the movie, same as Madam Web. Actually, Madam Web's more interesting.
Flavor win.
Card, but, Okay, I mean,
right.
let's see. We got time. We got a little time. So why don't we spend like 5 minutes here just kind of hashing out like thoughts on the set? And I'm going to keep mine brief because I said what I need to say in the mainline cube. Like, I think there are a lot of individually cool card designs. I do not care about the Spider-Man aspect at all. I don't think plastering the name Spider-Man on 50 different cards and then having all the other 50 cards just be cards with Spider-Man, then the art really works. So this is like a not for me set by a lot, but on the individual card basis, I like what's going on, and I actually like the interplay of all the mechanics. So there's some positive here. My excitement level in general for the paper version of the set is basically 0. And I'll be excited to see what the arena, maybe optimistically excited to see what the arena version of this looks like tomorrow.
Oh boy, I sure am looking forward to having a Marvel set every year for the next 6 years. All right, yeah, I'm done. I don't really have much more to say.
I don't actually, to me, my problem with this set has nothing to do with the Universes Beyond part of it. Like, if you like this set because you're into Spider-Man and there's some references in here that you really appreciate, like, more power to you, man. I think that's great. Honestly, if that gets you excited about Magic, that's awesome. I think the set is really bad for non-Universes Beyond reasons. And I think it's obvious that the reason it's bad is that it was never intended to be a set of this size. It was always supposed to be smaller, and then they had to scramble because of how bad the last 2 small sets were received. And so they, bloated the set up with a bunch of nonsense and are like, hey, you can draft it now. We even made this whole new format to draft it in, except for that format seems really not fun. Like, Pick 2 is what I'm talking about, and Pick 2 seems really not fun to play. How do we know that it's not that fun to play? Well, because they're not even using it as the Pro Tour draft format for the Pro Tour that Spider-Man is coming out for, where you can play Spider-Man cards in Standard, and they're not showcasing the limited environment at the Pro Tour. This is like one of the first times, if not the first times, that's ever happened, and it's because they know the limited environment is kind of nonsense. So I just think this is a product that makes not a lot of sense as is constructed. That being said, we got some cool cards for Cube, and I think the arena skins are going to feel like Magic cards, and so I'm not going to really have to engage much with how bad this set is, in my opinion. And I also think that we have good reason to think that this won't be the case for future Marvel Universes Beyond sets, but I don't know. We'll find out. But I'm pretty unimpressed. I don't think that WotC has much to be proud of for this set, unless, like I said, you just love Spider-Man and this is directly for you. Then more power to you.
Yeah, which is a smaller group of people than Final Fantasy or Lord of the Rings.
Well, I don't know. The collector's boxes still cost like $1,000, so we'll see.
That's just the norm now, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, these don't look like Magic cards or feel like Magic cards. I mean, the text boxes usually do, but most of the art is just
I don't.
Not it.
We had it was originally a 100 card set. We had to make it 181 so we could get in subway train and news helicopter. I'm just like, that doesn't track to me. But if you enjoy this set, then like Daneelius said, power to you, and we'll get good use out of the cards we like here. And we'll maybe report back on the arena version, the Omen Paths version of this once we have that tomorrow. And again, if you're a listener and you have a preference for which you would prefer for us to use between the paper versions of these cards, like the quote-unquote real versions and the arena versions, let us know. And as always, just to kind of close this out, check out our socials, twitter.com/jankedivergame and youtube.com/jankedivergame, and find our Discord server wherever you're listening to this podcast. You can find Daneelius in the limited level up server or in our own Discord server where he goes 1-2 in his own cube on frequent occasion, it seems. But it's fine. We test in the waters. You're not expected to 3-0 your own cube anyway, so... That is it for this one. We'll have already released the mainline review before this one comes out. So hopefully, barring any more hospital visits, we'll be back to kind of like a regular schedule with Chris on some mainline episodes. And we've got a good 2 months before Avatar comes out. So we'll hopefully get some... I hate going the kind of like track when Edge of Eternity's review into bonus episode into Spider-Man review, and I was hoping to get some more stuff in between there, so hopefully we can do that before Avatar comes out. But Daneelius, thanks as always for joining us. Teld, thanks for your insight and being here as well, and to the listener, we'll catch you all next time.
See ya.
Okay, I know we got like 10 minutes on the recording. I normally do not do a sign off for review episodes, but I had to do this one. I'm gonna pit you and Teld as teammates in a game real quick. Okay, you guys are gonna work together on this.
Deal.
Okay.
In spirit of Bagel and Schmear, Hot Dog Cart, Name All the City Pigeon, all the other very nuanced and like inspired things that came out in Spider-Man. What I'm going to do is, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I have 11 card names here. And you two are just going to collaborate and tell me, is the card name a real Magic the Gathering card? Or did Tim make it up? And this can come from anything in Magic the Gathering that is printed on a physical card. So it could be like an alternate name from a secret lair. It could be any sort of card type from any sort of supplementary thing. And I did throw some fake names in here. So there's 11 of them. If you get 6 of them right between the two of you, I'll give you the win. And if you get 6 or more wrong, sorry, you guys flunk out. So you guys ready? You're teammates on this. It's not a competition.
Ready to go.
Okay, so first card. First card is called Battle of Hoover Dam.
Oh, I actually
that's a real card.
That's 100% a real card. That's from the fall.
Okay. We're off to a good start. Battle of Hoover Dam is real. Not a battle, by the way. Next is...
That'd be insane.
Next up, The Fall of Constantinople.
No, I think that's a real card.
Hold on, that could be from the Assassin's Creed set, but I don't know.
But I don't recall that. I opened a lot of Assassin's Creed products. So
okay,
that doesn't sound like a real card to me.
We can roll with your answer then. I'm tempted to say it is, but I'm gonna go with Daneelius on this.
All right, are we sure about that one?
No, but I'm gonna say it's not a real card.
Okay, The Fall of Constantinople is fake. That is not a real card.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, next up, New York.
I have no idea. It doesn't sound like it, but I don't know.
I'm gonna go with fake, but if you told me it was from the Doctor Who set, I'd believe you.
Okay.
That is not a card name that I'm familiar with, but it could be.
All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no.
So this is a little bit of a gotcha. New York is real. It's a real card. It's part of a plane chase plane. So there might be some of those on this list for what it's worth.
Oh no.
Oh Lord.
Okay, so that one's real. So we missed that one. So we're 2-1. We're 2-1. The next one is called Pompeii.
Oh, well, now that you said it could be plane chase, I have no idea.
I'm gonna go with this one is real, but what do you think?
From what set? Because I don't think it's in Assassin's Creed. So what would it be?
Oh, I was gonna say Assassin's Creed.
Never
mind.
It would have to be a plane chase card again, and it could be, but I don't. I mean, maybe it's a Doctor Who plane chase thing. So I know they came out with those for Doctor Who. I don't recognize the name, so my vote would be no. But it could be a plane chase. I could see it.
Oh man. Okay, hold on.
Whatever your vote is.
So I'm gonna go with agreeing with Daneelius because you've been alternating.
Hey, you better not be Scryfall in that.
I'm not.
All right, so
but you have been alternating between real and fake.
I'm gonna say fake.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with fake too.
All right, you locked in fake. Pompeii is a plane chase plane from Doctor Who.
You jerk. I did say that it could be a Doctor Who plane chase card.
Yeah.
Right.
It could be from Assassin's Creed too. You don't know.
Yeah.
All right, here's another one. North Pole Research Base.
Okay, that actually sounds like a real card from.
It does sound real.
Like an unset, or from the old unsets where they had like snowman and stuff. There was a card. Oh man, I think that might be real. That rings real to me.
Okay, let's just lock it in. Let's just lock it in.
All right.
Real.
It's real.
North Pole Research Base is from the Doctor Who plane chase place. So that one's real. All right.
Man, you went deep on these plane chases.
Well, I started with Battle of Hoover Dam, and I was like, aren't there like a bunch of real sounding things in those plane chase things? Anyway, next card is Frankenstein's Monster.
I'm going to go with fake.
That sounds like definitely a real secret lair reskin of something. I would say that's a real card. But I'm not
going to go real?
I don't know what the card is. It just sounds to me like a real card.
Yeah, I feel like this one just sounds too real to actually be a real card.
Well, but that's the thing. It's like a secret lair reskin where it's not. That's actually not the card.
Those are on the table. Those are on the table.
Yeah, it's like a reskin of like a zombie or something. I think that's real.
Okay.
I don't know. It just sounds to me like something that's real.
It sounds to me like something
you're
that's fake.
3-2 right now. You're 3-2 right now.
All right, I've been doing the final answers, so you get final answer on this.
All right. I'm going with fake. That is not a real card.
Okay. Frankenstein's Monster is a black creature from the dark. From the dark.
Dang it.
All right,
It's
we're
not even
three.
a secret lair card.
It's
Man.
It's a real Magic card. It can get permanent +2/+0, +1/+1, or +0/+2 counters.
How did I not know about this card?
Okay, next is the Polar Express.
That's a movie, isn't it?
That is a movie. This is definitely fake. I'm going. No. This got to be fake. There's no way this is real.
Sure, agreed.
All right, you got me on that one. The Polar Express is fake. Actually, I didn't Scryfall it. Maybe if I typed in the Polar Express, it would come up with a real card, but I intended for it to be fake. So you got that one. We're 3-3 here? Yeah, we're 3-3. So you got to get
4-3 because we were 3-2 before, and we got.
Oh yeah,
one
you're
right.
right. You got to get at least 2 of the
4-3.
next 4 right.
Okay.
The next card is called Tiffany, Bride of Chucky.
That
That
think
sounds
is real.
I'm
That
going
sounds
with
real to me.
That's real.
But it might not
Yeah.
be Tiffany, Bride of Chucky. I don't know who Chucky's wife is.
Do
Do you know who Chucky's wife is? I don't.
No, I don't.
Oh,
But
crap.
let's go with real on this one.
Okay,
All right.
I didn't try to finagle you guys that much. This is a real card. I wouldn't do like
Okay,
Brittany, Bride of Chucky. That'd be egregious. I'll give you a bonus point if you can tell me what this is a reskin of, and I'll even tell you the mana cost is 2 and a black.
Nope, no idea.
It's Varragoth Blood Sky Sire. Or
Of
whatever.
course, yeah.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay, 5-3. Next up, Tempt with Bunnies.
Real.
That is real. I know that. I know that
Definitely
card is
real.
real.
Okay.
Definitely real.
yeah.
I've
I
played
should
that card in Commander.
I should have moved that to the last one because I was like, they're going to know this one. Okay, so you won, but I'm going to give you the last 2 just to see how close it is. The next one is called Post Malone's Pet Snake.
So
That's
I
fake.
know they made a card for Post Malone that
did they?
it had his likeness in it, but I don't believe they've made a card with that title. I'm going to say fake.
There's no way that's real. There's no way they made a card called Post Malone's Pet Snake.
Yeah, no, you're right. There was a Post Malone secret lair, and there are cards with Post Malone in the name, but I made up Post Malone
God.
Pet Snake.
Oh, no.
I was hoping one of you would know that there was a Post Malone secret lair, but not know the cards and be like, this one has to be real. It's Post Malone. Okay, and then the final one is called Sloppity Bile Piper.
Oh God. I hope it's.
Okay,
Oh wait,
my gut is that this sounds so fake, but it's so fake that it makes me think it has to be real.
I feel like I have seen this. I play like Sealed Commander, and I feel like I saw this card in a game because we thought the name was so funny, and we kept on saying it in the game. I'm gonna go. I think it's real.
All right, let's go with Sloppity Bloppity. Yeah, let's go with that one.
Sloppity Bile Piper is a creature from Warhammer 40k.
Yes.
Nice.
All right.
Oh,
All right.
crushed it.
Yeah,
Good job,
8-3. It looked a little rough there after New York and Pompeii, but I did not make the list entirely. I was like, there's no way they're going to get all of these.
Yeah, I was waiting for the list to just be nothing but planes chase and arch enemy stuff.
No, I thought that would be rude. I was like, I can trip them up on like 1 or 2 of these. I can't make the whole list like Pompeii and New York.
The Doctor Who plane chase stuff is like impossible. I don't know how. Good luck, I guess, if you can get that stuff.
You guys won. You didn't fall for the Polar Express. So you guys get the trophy. Oh, I normally have a title to give out for this. What should I name this? Real Card Randy. You guys both now have the title of Real Card Randy.
Nice.
Congratulations. Oh my God. Hey, you. I finally found you. Hold on a minute. Wait. Hi? Do we know each other? You look awfully familiar. Yes, it's me. It's me, Timothy. I'm you from the future. Oh, shit. I thought I recognized those bags under your eyes and those flabby arms. Look, there's no time to fuck around, Tim. I'm here to tell you something serious. Dude, what happened to you? You're all bruised and beat up. Is Rome throwing toy cars at you again? No. This is about the Jank Diver game in Peasant Cube. Seriously? You traveled through time to talk about Cube? No, this is serious. I came here to send you a message. The blue card, the blue aura from Spider-Man. You can't run it in your cube, no matter what. What, you mean the Terminator thing? Why? What happened? I don't have much time, but playing that card in your cube sets off a chain of catastrophic events. Does this have something to do with carbon? Yes, of course it's related to carbon. Who else do you think it'd be? No? Good point. What happens after we run the aura? It's hard to talk about, but in my timeline, civilization has completely collapsed. There's no food. It's a living hellscape with all the drones and bombs. Bombs? What does that have to do with the aura, though? Just trust me on this. If you play that aura, you've doomed the future of this planet. Oh shit, is Rome still alive? Yeah, he's still sucking his thumb, though. Damn it. I thought we'd gotten rid of that. Oh well. Look, it's not the point. The nature of that card made Fletcher nearly unstoppable. He became a god, essentially. No one could stop his power. And the complaint equity that Carbon built up made him stronger, too. They became these superhuman entities that clashed with one another and threw the whole world into an unending war. Oh yeah? I honestly thought Cryogen Relic was going to do that, but I guess it took another set. Tim, you're not taking me seriously. Oh, shit, I'm almost done. Look, there's one more thing. Yeah, what's up? It's about Teld. He's... What? What about Teld? Oh no, my time's up. I'm being warped back to my timeline. Wait, what about Teld, though? Heed my warning. Don't play the new blue aura from Spider-Man. God damn it, Teld. What'd you do this time?